After yesterday's video, we'll keep reading. We're gonna pretend yesterday didn't happen. We heard the mad ravings, but we're gonna keep reading, dude. All right, chapter 583 is called Contingency Plan. The ice cold water instantly inundated Klein, drenching his golden red dress and making him sink like a rock. At the same time, creeping hunger had already finished eating the pirate. Listening to his load, Klein didn't attempt to float up and had instead continued sinking downwards. He could faintly hear splashing sounds across the distant waves. Apparently, the pirate from the sailor pathway had engaged in pursuit. This was their home ground. Oh, they're chasing him? They could act like fish in environments for a very long period of time. Klein wasn't alarmed. As a magician who never performed unprepared, he had obviously thought of how to escape. No, he had obviously thought of his escape plans if he met with failure. After all, there was nothing guaranteed about such matters. To do his best, acting as Helene and not be discovered by Vice Admiral Ailman Tracy, he had not only left the other mystical items and cache above the gray fog, but he had even done so for the charms that came under the water and wind domain that he had recently made. However, that didn't affect him. As a god, a blessed, and a believer trinity, he had made miraculous methods to deal with the corresponding situation. He quickly made creeping hunger turn pale and be dyed in a gloomy green. The surrounding seawater froze, forming layers of frost. He's freezing it? The surrounding seawater froze, forming layers of frost. Before the frost completely turned into ice, Klein spread his wing muscles, spread out his arms with the strength of a zombie. He shattered the frost, sending him slightly further away. Okay, we're right here. He quickly made creeping hunger turn pale and died in a gloomy green. The surrounding seawater froze, forming layers of frost. Before the frost completely turned into ice, Klein spread his wing muscles and spread out his arms with the strength of a zombie. He shattered the frost, sending him slightly further away. This way, he temporarily produced a narrow space that didn't have any seawater around him. The water instantly surged backwards to fill the space. Klein extended his left palm and released his terrifying cold and spread it out, creeping layers of ice water. For a brief moment, he seemed to be encased in an ice prison. He could stand it and produce sounds, but he was only limited to the tiny escape. Klein immediately took tiny steps in a counterclockwise fashion while murmuring blessing stem from the celestial worthy of heaven and earth before rapidly letting his spirit body go above the gray fog. Just as his body, and this is as he's swimming, just as his body appeared at the fool's high back chair, he immediately picked up the sea god's oh shit, he's gonna use this shit in real life. He picked up the sea god scepter, which had been, oh wait, no, he prayed to himself. So he prayed to himself, and he's going to respond to his own prayer when he's above the gray fog. Picked up the sea god scepter, which had been placed on the table. Without needing to identify anything, he selected the point of light representing no shot, dude. Representing German Sparrow, who had recently been promoted to a believer of the sea. He's been recently promoted to a believer of the sea god. Through a previously established connection, he raised a short milky white scepter and made the blue gems on it emit a blurry luster. He replied to his believer and augmented himself with all sorts of spells, included but not limited to underwater breathing, freedom of movement, and pressure resistance. He just enhanced his own abilities like that. Finally, he used a paper angel to interfere with any divination. He then ordered the nearby undersea creatures to help protect German Sparrow's escape. After doing all this, Klein didn't delay and had immediately returned to the real world and gained control of his body. At that moment, the seawater's pressure had crushed the constantly melting ice wall and had retaken the independent space. However, Klein could already breathe easily and swim rapidly. Through the rippling by crystalline water, he saw fishes swimming towards him. A dark shadow rose up from beneath his feet, and an unknown behemoth rapidly rose. It was a strange brownish red creature that looked like a squid. It was so massive that its tentacles were enough to bind an entire ship. What's going on, dude? What? Its tentacles were long enough to bind an entire ship. It spewed black ink and instantly dyed the surrounding seawater. The few sailor pathway beyonders who were pursuing Klein instantly saw black as their bodies turned numb. Unclear of what was happening, they immediately floated to the surface and dealt with the abnormalities in their bodies. By the time they dived down again to find the enemy, they had already lost track of Klein. At this moment, Klein was swimming to the bottom of the sea with great satisfaction. He even had the time to divert his attention to recall his failed operation and reflect on what he had done. I had sufficient preparations to act as Helene. Even Tracy, who had shared numerous nights with her on the same bed, couldn't instantly see through me. It actually worked. It accelerated the digestion of the potion. During this process, I still had to overcome my aversion and find a way to both get into character and be detached. This was extremely helpful to digest the potion. I basically did the best I could for battle. He could have done a little bit more. I basically did the best I could for battle. It could be considered a preparation performance, but I underestimated the strength of a sequified demoness of affliction and the experience of someone who inched her way to becoming Vice Admiral Ailment. Even though she lost her mystical item in the beginning, just by the present strength of my mystical items weren't enough to kill her quickly, unless I had used the Sea God Scepter, but this is around the Roasted Archipelago. Through today's battle, I can clearly tell that I lack a mystical item with powerful offensive abilities. Facing the reality of a failed mission, Klein was no doubt somewhat disappointed. However, he wasn't depressed because this was the end of the matter. He planned on writing to Mr. Zik to see if he was interested in the ancient chronicles related to death and if he had the time to pay a visit. Before Klein left he's gonna visit him? Before Klein left the captain's cabins, he had snapped his fingers to ignite the male clothing he had left in the changing room, as well as any hair or skin he had left behind. This was to make it seem like he didn't wish to leave any traces, but it was in fact a form of concealment and deceit. What he was concealing was a hair and button had already been secretly thrown into a particular room without anyone noticing after he entered the cabin. Having wiped away the traces of himself, Vice Admiral Ailment Tracy would mistakenly believe that the assassin was afraid of exposing himself because of the fear of suffering a remote curse. Then it would be difficult for her to seriously get the pirates to check for enemy remnant items. With the hair and button, Klein could use divination to lock onto the location of the Black Death up to a certain amount of time. This way, as long as Mr. Zik was willing, he could bring him to Vice Admiral Ailment Tracy. Are we going to team up? Sai, I originally thought I wouldn't need Mr. Zig's help. I thought I could succeed just by myself alone. Ultimately, I felt short. Klein sighed and felt a blow to his self-esteem. This was one of the reasons why he didn't seek Mr. Zig help in the beginning. He wanted to see if he can take on an admiral. The other reason was that he was certain that Tracy was in the possession of the ancient chronicles related to death. If she didn't really have it, it would be rather awkward to have Mr. Zik make a trip for nothing. Furthermore, he was worried that even if Mr. Zig's help, he would still need to act as Helene to find Black Death and Tracy. He still needed to wear his clothes and use himself as bait. That would be too embarrassing to do in front of someone he knew. In fact, if it wasn't to obtain intelligence and solely to eliminate Vice Admiral Ailment Tracy, it would have been a lot simpler. Once I swim back to Bam and go above the Grey Fog, I simply need to lock onto the location and use the Sea God Scepter to create a storm. This isn't to say the huge area of attack blast will definitely kill Tracy on the spot, but it will attract Sea King John Coltman's attention. When the time comes, the Black Death's location will be exposed to the Church of Storm. Sea King will happily take down Ailment Maiden. Klein shook his head with self-deprecating mockery. With the seer's spiritual intuition guiding him, he rapidly swam towards the shore. Too awkward to cross just before Mr. Zik. He just got to get over that fear, man. Once he gets over that obstacle, I think he's good. On the Black Death, Tracy removed her layers of defense and walked to the diamond inland bangle in her damaged, blood-stained clothes. She bent down to pick it up with a cautious attacker. I might not even be comparable to her back when I was an assassin. No, him. Tracy suddenly clenched her teeth. Oh, what a cautious attack. She's praising him, dude. What a cautious attacker. I might not even be comparable to her back when I was an assassin. No, him. Tracy suddenly clenched her teeth. This wasn't because she nearly died at the hands, but because he had sensed that the man had done something to Helene. According to the way Emperor Rizal put it, she suspected there was something green growing on her. Head. Helene, are you really that cold and heartless? No, perhaps she was forced. Tracy turned her head to look at the nasty wound on her left shoulder, and she felt heart-wrenching pain. If not for the strengthening of her physique brought about the assassin and instigator sequence, with a significant enhancement in subsequent sequences, just one blow alone could have made her lose her entire arm. She would be like those pirates who had their arms blown off by rifles. As the blood flowed and stained her vision, Tracy got the blonde female attendant to enter and use her abilities to to help her deal with the injuries while instructing the surrounding pirates who had their eyes fixated on her to search for any items the attacker had left behind. Unfortunately, the pirates informed her that all of his clothes had been automatically destroyed. This made Tracer recall the snap the enemy had made before he left. She said once again, how careful. Furthermore, he's not one bit greedy. If he had taken a bangle, then I wouldn't need to worry about not catching up to him. All right, you guys were right. Yeah, she would have been able to trace that. Tracy would be able to trace that. That's pretty funny. Tracy waved her hand, motioning for most of the pirates to leave, leaving behind Wormtongue, Mither King, and a few ranking members of the crew. Third mate, go to Bam again, perform a thorough investigation to figure out where the resistance found that Helene. Tracy ordered in a solemn voice. With great difficulty, Mithor Mythora retracted his gaze from his captain's chest. All right. Tracy thought for a moment and added, spread this matter. Say that I'm seriously injured and will not be able to recover anytime soon. Also, first mate immediately set sail. Don't stay here any longer. As she issued orders, silence was quickly restored around Tracy. Only at this point did she have the time to figure out which faction the attacker came from. Why would he attack her and what motives he had? Unfortunately, the more Tracy thought about it, the more puzzled she became. She had no idea what the truth was. Although she had many enemies, none of them possessed similar powers. Finally, she found a clue as she muttered to herself, creeping hunger. In the middle of the night, in a private harbor of Blue Mountain Island, standing by the receding and advancing waves was a female figure. She was none other than Klein, who was still disguised as Helene. He circled under the water and quickly came out shore. Oh, he made it. Wait, what island? He literally swam to an island. He swam to the harbor on Blue Mountain Island. He circled around under the water and quickly came onto shore. He infiltrated the house of a nearby fisherman and got some tattered clothes to change into before changing back into German Sparrow. Leaving behind the rather expensive dress... The rather expensive dress as compensation, Klein rapidly left the private harbor and returned to the city of Generosity Bayonne before daybreak. He wasn't in a rush to meet up with the Nits. Instead, he found a random hotel to stay in. He used a ritual and brought back a Zig's copper whistle, other mystical items, and cash back to the real world. After confirming that he could divine the location of Black Death, he blew the copper whistle. Are we gonna get a team up, dude? No shot. Really? I feel like it's too soon for them to team up. Like, Zik didn't come out till the end of Volume 2, and like now he's already like calling him, dude. Chapter 584 is called Scapegoat. After lowering the copper whistle, Klein had already activated his spirit vision. He saw illusionary white bones being weakly thrown up from the ground as they slowly formed a gigantic figure. Yeah, the past scenes were like a fountain in a fantasy setting. Then this was more like the flow from an ordinary reversed tap. The corner of Klein's mouth moved indiscriminately as he pretended as though he hadn't noticed anything amiss. After a few seconds, the skeleton messenger finally took form. Its nearly 4 meter body tore through the ceiling once again as the pitch black flames and its eye sockets burned slightly. Klein folded the letter he had finished writing and threw it up. He described in detail Tycoon Jimmy Nectar. In the letter, he mentioned the connections between Death Chronicles found in the southern continent's Balam Empire mausoleum, as well as the connection the item had with Vice Admiral Hurricane Quillingus and Vice Admiral Element Tracy. He also mentioned how he could successfully sneak in, and although his assassination had failed, he had left behind something that could be used to determine the location of Black Death. Of course, he didn't go into detail how he sneaked in. He only roughly recounted Vice Admiral Element Tracy's combat techniques and style. Oh shit, he didn't like, you didn't have to worry about me cross-raising. It's like, he's like, you don't need to worry about this. Like, I'm gonna keep that one to myself. After the messenger caught the letter with a swipe that he could set it an adult human flying, Klein coughed and cleared his throat. I already have a messenger. The pitch black flames in the skeleton messenger sockets clearly flickered before its body collapsed like a waterfall before drilling into the parquet. Badoon Monarch. I don't know what I misspoke, but I know I misspoke something. You don't have to be afraid of becoming my messenger anymore, right? Am I that determined am I that detestable to your kind? Yes, the messengers from the underworld probably can't bear to leave Mr. Zik. After all, that's a direct descendant of death. There might not even be any skip in the generational line. You want to cozy up with someone powerful. I get it. Klein was just about to pack up. Is he jealous? Klein was just about to pack up and check out when his nose itched suddenly and sneezed. Achoo, achoo. Cough, cough, cough. Mucus flowed out as he coughed. Is he still suffering like the lingering effects from Tracy? Mucus flowed out as he coughed. His forehead slowly but decisively began burning with heat. Oh no, Vice Admiral Element Tracy's ailment is still lingering in my body, and I confronted a 10 Celsius cold wind in order to return to Bayonne. I really felt ill as a result. Klein used inferior tissue paper to wipe his mucus, contemplating whether to summon himself and act as a spirit body state so that his physical body could heal by itself. He can do that. After Sears, you know what? If he's that hated, maybe that's why no one that's why only she responded, right? Like his messenger. Everybody was probably hearing the Azik's messenger talk shit like, yeah, like, fuck this guy, man. Like, our homie died because of him. No, like, bro, if he ever summons you, no one answer it, and only she went. Dude, that messenger was probably snitching, dude, in the spirit world. That's literally what happened, right? After serious consideration, he believed that it was impossible. Firstly, his physical condition would clearly affect his spirit body's condition. The two were closely related in some magical manner. Secondly, if he ignored it, his physical condition would definitely worsen. Really? I'm becoming a little dazed from the fever. Klein touched his forehead and prepared to return to the wind of the Azure Inn to meet up with the Nits. Then he had to consider if he should head to a hospital or clinic to buy some medicine. In a Berg household in the city of Silver, Derek finally obtained the Radiant Spirit Pack Tree fruit from Mam Hermit. Ooh, he's one step closer, dude, for the Solar Police, right? And he concocted it. Is he gonna drink it? And he successfully concocted the Solar High Priest Potion. It was golden in color and had a scorching hot temperature. When Derek drank it, he felt the burning sensation in his throat. His eyes lit up suddenly as they grew brighter, like they were two miniature suns hidden in them. His body radiated concentric ripples of pure light as he exposed his skin protruded to form the black patterns that were visible to the naked eye. At the same time, his body hair grew longer as though they were changing into feathers that were swirling the golden flames. Derek knew that there would be similar changes when consuming a potion at sequence 7. He didn't panic, become flustered. He clenched his teeth and repeatedly recalled the pain of him personally killing his parents. And I forgot about that. Derek knew that there will be similar changes when consuming a potion at sequence 7. He didn't panic or become flustered. He clenched his teeth and repeatedly recalled the pain of him personally killing his parents and the hopes that arose from the depths of his heart after meeting Mr. Fool. Despite being on the brink of losing control, he managed to persevere through it. I forget how sad that was, man. After a while, everything abnormal about him was restored back to normal. However, Derek knew that there would be similar changes. Yeah, I read this, right? Mr. Fool, despite being on the brink of losing control, he managed to persevere through it. After all, everything abnormal about him was restored back to normal. However, the air he exhaled was mixed with the warmth of the sun. No shot, dude. Is he going to start illuminating the Forsaken Land? He felt that his body had become stronger again, and he had some considerable resistance against ailments and treacherous environments. However, that wasn't the main point. Derek, like the various theoretical, I've never read this or said it in my life. What? Hold up.
Derek liked the various theurgical knowledge
theoretical. I just said Urkel. Theoretical knowledge that appeared in his mind. They included Fire of Light, Horror Immunity, Holy Oath, Cleave of Purification, Sun Halo, Holy Light Summoning, Holy Water Creation, etc. Derek paced around in delight. No, he's happy. He paced around delight as he felt the related spells he had were suitable for him in dealing with the evil monsters that hid in the dark. He didn't hide the news and immediately ran to the Twin Towers and recorded the information of his advancement. This way, after preliminary inspection, he would have the qualifications to helm a small patrolling team, and it's no shot, dude. So now he gets his own team. He had the qualifications to helm a small patrolling team and its captain. He couldn't come into contact with more of the City of Silver's information. This included the methods of removing the mental corruption of Beyonder characteristic. It is time, dude. Oh, shit. Which Mr. World wants. While Derek was answering the registration clerk's various questions, he couldn't help but recall the promise that he hadn't been able to fulfill all this time. Oh, that's definitely loud. Owning something to others often let him uneasy and uncomfortable, and now he could finally see the light. Oh, no pun intended. He could finally see the light that could restore his calm. And the Emir's leaf bar, Wormtongue Mythor King was holding a cup of red wine. He sat across from the elderly strongman Uzo, crossing his right leg, and leisurely asked, "Did you figure out anything specific?" He had been instructed by his Captain Vice Admiral Ailman Tracy to return to Bayam and investigate the fake Helene. For this, he found Uzo, who was originally issued the mission. He couldn't directly seek out the resistance because there was a small chance that they were cooperating with fake Helene. To question them in person was no different from directly bringing his head to the Governor General office in exchange for the bounty reward. Uzo pulled a chair and sat down. They didn't hide anything, but I can't be sure if they're speaking the truth or not. As you know, I prefer using fists rather than brains. They said that Helene was brought over by Blazing Danitz. All right, I guess they're going to be tracking down Blazing Danitz. He represented Vice Admiral Iceberg in the hope to establish a cooperative relationship with the Resistance. They wanted to provide a certain amount of help, and Helene was a way to express their goodwill. Blazing Danitz, Vice Admiral Iceberg, Mythor ruminated over the two names as his expression slowly turned solemn. He leaned back in his chair and he knitted his brows bit by bit. As one fellow Vice Admiral Hurricane's former captains, he was now the third mate of Vice Admiral Ailman Tracy's flagship. He was no stranger to the other pirate admirals, and he knew that Vice Admiral Iceberg was powerful and had a rich collection. With just one ship and a few subordinates, she was able to resist the other pirate admirals. In terms of strength, she was a little stronger than the two of his bosses. More pertinently, Vice Admiral Iceberg seldom involved herself in the conflicts between pirates. She sought information and explored the unknown to seek out treasure. She was more like an adventurer than a pirate. Why would she suddenly want to assassinate a captain? This doesn't suit her character. She previously suffered a setback because of Admiral Blood's rumors. She should be focusing on seeking revenge on him. Mythor took a sip of red wine as he rubbed his forehead with his other hand. He temporarily stopped thinking about Vice Admiral Iceberg, and he placed his attention on Blazing the Knits. As he carefully recalled, his pupils suddenly shrank. He discovered that there was some recent problems regarding the fourth boatswain of the Golden Dream he was familiar with. He laid a trap and killed Steel Mavetti, Blood Brambles, Hendry, and Calm Squall. His bounty was raised to he set all that up, right? His bounty was raised to 4,200 pounds, and in a short period of time, he got embroiled in some matter, causing his bounty to rise again, reaching 5,500 pounds. This has already exceeded my bounty. Mythor thought to himself silently as Blazing Knit's figure surfaced before him. He found him mysterious and terrifying. Yo, what's up? Good morning, Romero. He advanced, or that he received some great benefits because of something. Mythor leaned forward and put down the cup. He whispered seriously, I originally treated his bounty increase as a joke, but reality, his information has informed me that Blazing the Knits is a great pilot. He is a great pirate worthy of 5,500 pound bounty. Mythor looked up and said to Strongman Uzo, help me seek out intel on Blazing, the recent ones. In the luxury suit in the window of the Azure, when the Knits opened the door and saw German Sparrow, he glanced around warily before making way. How was it? Did the hunt succeed? He asked in excitement and curiosity after closing the door. Vice Admiral Ailment is a famous beauty. Back when I saw her, she was even more charming than I imagined. What a pity. If she were to just die like that, she should be locked up forever without parole. Pew. How could she be prettier than the captain? How could she be prettier than captain? Those with looks like her are plenty in Red Theater. Oh, that's pretty mean. Contradictory ran through the Knits' head. I read that wrong. Klein clenched his fist and placed it into his mouth before coughing violently. After calming down, he answered coldly, almost. What a pity, the Knit sighed. By the way, you guys should check out our new emote. Username. You should check out our new emote, bro. You should plug that new emote. It's a pretty good we got a Rampager emote. We'll leave it at that. But deep down, he was thinking, this madman German Sparrow is really strong. Yeah, look at that. He infiltrated the Black Death to assassinate Vice Admiral Ailment, but was only just fell short of success. Even though he failed, he successfully returned to almost without any injuries. One hand to know that the reason why every pirate admiral was famous through the 5 seas, being second only to the 4 king, was only because they themselves were strong. It was also because they represented a crew, a force to be reckoned with. They had many beyonders under them. To be able to escape from the Black Death after a failed assassination had indicated that German Sparrow was in no way weaker than any pirate admiral. They had many beyonders under them. To be able to escape from the Black Death after a failed assassination had indicated that German Sparrow was in no way weaker than any pirate admiral. That's wild, dude. That's crazy. Is Creeping Hunger really that powerful? No, even if I were in his shoes and had Creeping Hunger, I wouldn't be able to go that far. The Knits was increasingly convinced that his choice of not resisting during his first encounter with German Sparrow was extremely wise. He's like, wise choice. Klein coughed twice again and prepared to instruct the Knits to buy some medicine for him from the hospital. He then recalled the cause of his illness was complicated. The medicine provided to him without a doctor's careful examination might not be effective. Even the many medicines that Emperor Rizal had previously invented were the same. If it wasn't because it's impossible to use a Grey Fog to establish a remote treating system, I really wish that I could consult Emlyn White to make some medicine. Klein went to the washroom to wash up and change into his original clothes and burn the clothes he had obtained from the fisherman. Upon seeing him come out, the Knits went over with a paper bag and said in a psychophanic manner, this is the 700 pounds they gave. At this point, he and Klein had heard someone knock on the door. It was Captain Elland. When the captain rushed into the room, he gave German Sparrow a deep look and surprised his voice. I planned on returning to Prince Harbor, but I received a piece of intel. Something huge has happened at Bansi Harbor? This has something to do with the King of Angels, right? Oh, okay. All right, let's keep reading, dude. Hey, username. That's a pretty good emote, bro. How'd you get that new Rampager emote? You should tell him how you got the new Rampager emote. Chapter 585 is called Buying Medicine. All right, here we go. Banshee again, guys. Here we freaking go. The Church of Storms has finally taken action on... Oh, they're finally responding to the intel Klein set up. The Church of the Storms had finally taken action on Banshee Harbor. Klein clenched his fist and placed it to his mouth before coughing. He asked calmly without any questions what happened. Ellen didn't notice any abnormal reaction from Germansborough. He retracted his gaze and surveyed the area. I don't know what exactly happened. I only know that it might have involved the upper echelons of the Church of Storms. And for a period of time before that, all the routes that led to Banshee Harbor were canceled. This might have been a so-called omen. With only one currency membership, you too could use these emojis. Yo, username, that's a quick plug. Yeah, we should pin that comment. Involve the upper echelons of the Church of Storms. No, it should be the most elite forces. I suspect that the pontiff of the Church of Storms, that grounded angel, had personally taken action. He might even use a grade 0 sealed artifact. After all, he might be facing a king of angels, one that's even older than the 4th epoch, as well as his descendants. Klein nodded and calmly asked, so he's one of the 8. What's the... Yeah, it was... I forget. It's one of the 8 angels. What's the outcome? He wasn't in the least bit surprised that the Church of Storms had only taken action on Banshee Harbor in the past few days. Even though the mandated punishers were known for being rash and irascible, there was still a protocol that needed to be followed for serious matters like this. For example, they needed to make a confirmation, evacuate a portion of the innocent residents, or seal off the surrounding sea. All of this needed time. Ellen was unable to read Germansborough's true emotions as he said with a smile, "There won't be a Banshee Harbor for a very long period of time?" As expected of the Church of Storms, Klein secretly clicked his tongue, feeling even more curious about the detailed process. He wanted to know whether Red Angel Medici had appeared after, and if he really was sleeping near Banshee Harbor. That's... So now we have one of the 8 angels, like, on land. Like in the real world. Okay. This is getting a little serious. He wanted to know if he had been wiped out by the Church. I don't know if he was wiped out. He wanted to know if he had been wiped out by the Church of Storms. I don't think that happened. And wished to know what happened to the natives in Banshee Harbor. He wanted to know what it meant for them to speak in such a staccato manner. And he wished to know what secrets were hidden in the Green Lemon restaurant at Telegraph office. Unfortunately, with Banshee Harbor's destruction, it was difficult for him to obtain any actual answers. Banshee Harbor's destruction? Bro, how bad was it? Perhaps the intel record of the Church of Storms would mention them, but Klein had no way of getting with the Hangman's ranks. There's no way he could gain access to such confidential information. I'll have to nurture Mr. Hangman into a high-sequence demigod before I can know the answers to my questions. Klein sighed silently and said without a change in expression, "The place is indeed very dangerous." Before he finished his sentence, his throat itched as he coughed violently. "You feel ill?" Ellen asked, puzzled. He originally imagined that Germansborough was like him, a Beyonder whose psyche had been considerably enhanced. It was unlikely for Beyonders like them to fall ill before they grew weak from age. But from the looks of it, he previously guessed it might have been wrong. Klein answered tersely without giving any explanation. A question of no value or meaning. It would be odd if he isn't ill after an intense battle with Element Maiden. The Knits Ailment Maiden. The Knits grumbled in contempt from the side. Ellen chuckled and said, I can recommend you an apocryphy that's better than a hospital clinic. That's his Beyonder job. He had a tiny herb store in an alley diagonally across Red Theater. He's known for selling male enhancements, but that's not what he's best at. Okay. Does every apocryphy develop such medicine? That's right. It's absolutely one of the most profitable medicines-based business. The music isn't too loud, right? Now it looks okay. It's only odd to not do if they're capable of doing it. Klein nodded slightly in response. Why haven't I heard of him? The Knits asked, surprised. He only came to Bayham in the past few months. When was your last visit with the City of Silver Generosity? Ellen asked with a chuckle. When I took your crappy boat, the Knits answered silently in his mind. He carefully recalled and discovered that in the past few months, apart from this period of time, he had passed by Bayham once during the earlier days in his vacation, and other times he was drifting out at sea in search of treasure. Otherwise, he was at other places of harbor enjoying himself, so it was sure that he wasn't aware of any minor changes to the State of Generosity. I've already spent quite a few days in Bayham. I've been to the Red Theater several times, but I've not heard anything about this apocryphy. This can only serve to imply that his male enhancement medicines are limited effect. The Knits bragged as he said stubbornly. Ellen smiled and didn't debate with the great pirate. Instead, is he jealous? Because she's praising like somebody else. Instead, he said to Germansborough, it's only an ordinary ailment, the apocryphy will only charge a slight premium. And for you, it doesn't matter if it's expensive. What's most important is to recover your health as quickly as possible. No adventurer wishes to stay in a sick state. This implies danger and might become the target of someone else. It implies the increased risk of losing control. Indeed, maintaining a good state is rather important matter for beyonders. However, the price is still very important, right? If the apocryphy were to charge £1,000, then I might as well buy medicine from the hospital. Or I can describe the situation of my illness and get that vampire Emmeline White to make some medicine. Although I already have £6,000 in savings and have several beyonder characteristics, I still need to consider it. I still want to add a mystical item with lethal offensive powers. And what is he gonna buy, bro? That's like offensive. A lethal offensive power and seek out clues of the high sequence potion formula, Klein mumbled inwardly. High sequence potion formulas were impossible to put a price on in the mysterious world, therefore Klein only thought of buying the reveling clues. After Ellen left, Klein took £700 and gave the Nits £200. Wearing his... he only gave him 200. Wearing his hat and holding his cane, he coughed and wiped his snot before stepping out to the door in preparation to take the carriage to the vicinity of the Red Theater. The Nits was very curious about the apocryphy's medicine. He pasted 2 mustaches on his face, wore a cap, and followed. With Klein's guidance, he already knew that using a scarf to hide his face was an act that strongly attracted attention by him. He took this advice to buy some fake mustaches, and the alley diagonally across from the Red Theater. The moment Klein entered, he saw a man furtively come out from the nameless herb store. The moment the man saw someone, he hurriedly lowered his head and rushed over. "Don't worry. We won't be guessing what medicine you're buying." Klein coughed twice again, increasing his pace, and walked into the dark herb store. He scanned the area and was surprised because the boss was someone he knew. Who do we know? Is this somebody from the beginning of the series? Or from the beginning of Volume 3? Like it has to be like one of the bodyguards. The boss was wearing a black robe that resembled a village witch doctor. He was in his 30s with black hair and brown eyes. His face was round and his body chubby. He was none other than the chubby apocryphy who... Well, wait, before I keep reading, apocryphy. There was a there was a chubby fat apocryphy in Volume 2 at Mr. A's not Mr. A meetings, not Mr. A's gatherings, at Isengard's Beyonder gatherings. That's the only I took notes of him. I took notes of him in Volume 2. I put mysterious apocryphy member. That's all I put. Okay. His face was round and his body chubby. He was none other than the chubby apocryphy who had often liked to use sarcasm in gathering held by old Mr. Arrodes. Yep, old Mr. Eye of Wisdom in Backland. Klein had once again recognized him at the circus. Oh yeah, he was at the circus. He stopped showing up to old Mr. Eye of Wisdom's Beyond Gathering because he left Backland. Klein coughed and took 2 steps forward. "Make some medicine for me." On the chubby apocryphy's shoulder stood a round-eyed owl. An owl. The man and the bird looked up at the same time at Klein. After a brief examination, the chubby apocryphy revealed a warm smile. "Friend, it's cold outside. Don't do these deeds out in the open, although it's true that it can be rather exciting. Don't do those deeds out in the open, although it's true that it can be rather exciting." What the hell? Klein was first stunned before he understood what he was getting at. "When batting Tracy, I was influenced by her pleasure powers. Blood flowed down to my nether regions, and my desires diluted." Oh my god, I cannot read. "This resulted in my body emptying out, making it faster and easier for the ailment to strike me. When escaping the ice cold sea was fine, since I had I can't pronounce this damn word. The theurgical spells protected me." I can't read it. Great show. Klein, is that what it was? Oh, when the blood... Oh. Maybe. But the wind on the way back was rather cold. It worsened my sickness. In conclusion, doesn't this look like getting sick as a result of having pleasure out in the open? As expected of apocryphy, he has sharp eyes. Klein maintaining a composed expression and just looking at him without answering. All he did was wait for him to concoct the medicine. The Nits turned his head to look out of the herb store and held back his laughter with great difficulty. What dog shit apocryphy is this? He can't even distinguish the elements released by Element Maiden, he thought in glee. When the chubby apocryphy didn't get a response, he dully opened some cabinets, took out some common, strange herbs and insect carcasses, stuffed them into the paper bag, and handed it over. Put it all in water and cook it for half an hour. Drink the liquid that's left over forcefully. It's a little expensive. Klein glanced at the Nits. The latter merely took out the money automatically. As the chubby apocryphy collected the money, he bent his back and suppressed his voice to say with a chuckle, "I have medicine that can make you stand out in that area." The kind that has mummy powder added. Oh yeah, they have to use mummy powder. I forgot about that. Mummy powder is like their spice, right? Yeah, that's what spices things up. The kind that has mummy powder added. Need it? I guarantee that you'll be satisfied. I know you might be very strong, but men always seek to be stronger. Firstly, I need to have a girlfriend. Klein coldly shook his head and rejected the chubby apocryphe's recommendation. The chubby apocryphe straightened his back in disappointment. He turned his gaze and sided up the two before asking, "Are the both of you adventurers?" Yes, Klein answered simply. The chubby apocryphe rubbed his hands and said, "I have requests, but you'll only be paid after completing it." How big is the reward? Klein pinched his nose. 100 pounds. The chubby apocryphe shouted out as his heart panted for the money. Help me find someone. His name is Roy King. He's my teacher. Oh my god, we got the teacher name reveal. It mentions, like, in volume 2. Wow, my audio is really loud. It mentioned in volume 2 that, like, his teacher went missing. And in my volume 2 notes, which I will post soon, I literally labeled chubby apocryphe's teacher ? So he's called Roy King. He's my teacher. He got me to meet him. Wow, that was set up so long ago. He's my teacher. He got me to meet him here, but I haven't seen him after waiting for months, and I have no way of contacting him. Is there a portrait, or a photograph? Klein inquired. The chubby apocryphe took out a photograph from a secret pouch by his waist and handed it over. It was a relatively young man. His hair was neatly combed back and he wore glasses. He appeared very gentlemanly. Your teacher? Klein asked. I might believe it if you're the teacher. The chubby apocryphe coughed dryly and said, he's at least 60, but he looks young. A beyond her power or a mystical item? Klein nodded in thought and began asking about the specifics. After confirming that there weren't any items he can use to divine, he took the paper bag and left the store. After he disappeared from the alley, the owl standing on the chubby apocryphe's shoulder suddenly said, I'm sorry. The owl can talk? After he disappeared from the alley, the owl standing on the chubby apocryphe's shoulder suddenly said, Dark Will, that guy might know you? Yo, that is the second talking beyonder, like, animal. What the? Well, wait, hold up. Third. There was the demon dog, right? So we have Sussy, we had demon dog, and now we have an owl. He's a beast tamer, remember? That's why he was at the carnival, right? When he was, like, observing the tiger? I forgot about that. Oh, yeah, he was the one that revealed, but I'm a beast tamer. And I was like, so beast tamer ain't sequence 1 or sequence 0. You're right. All right, now it's clicking. All right, next chapter. Chapter 586 is called Farewell and Reunion. What? He knows me. The chubby apocryphe Darkwell was alarmed as he whispered. The chubby so his name is Darkwell. Or Dark Will. Okay? So now we have, instead of, thank you for subscribing, dude, was alarmed as he whispered back. The owl's round eyes looked ahead and said, I noticed that he clearly paused for 2 seconds the moment he saw you when he came in. Perhaps you think someone's like me doesn't match his image of an apocryphy? The chubby apocryphy retorted. The owl spread its wings and landed. Suit yourself if you wish to think so. What books have you been reading recently? The fat on the chubby apocryphy's face trembled. The owl replied sternly seriously. My reading is based on your knowledge standards, such as those involving soccer. We got soccer in this world. Unfortunately, the words you grasp and can teach me are limited. I have no choice but to read popular novels that have a lower requirement on one's vocabulary. Besides, they're all serialized on the newspaper. Darkwell chuckled. I'll buy a receipt cookbook later. It's called Guide to the East Ballum Bird Culinary Methods. Without waiting for the owl to answer, his expression sank and he muttered to himself, he knows me. He looks like the standard Loaness man. More than half his blood is at least Loan. I use a fake name to stay in a few. Oh, he used a fake name back over there. Yeah, what do you mean? We're always locked in, just like yesterday. I use a fake name to stay in a few cities in Lowen. It's not odd to be recognized by him, but I still need to be on guard. If I don't receive any news about Old Man before March, then I have to leave this place. Having said that, he turned his head to look at the owl who had perched on his shoulder. At times, you're still rather useful. No, your eyes and your body language tells me that your real thoughts are darn it. I want to buy a pet that can help me beat monsters and gangsters. I sought out beyond ingredients of a potion recipe according to the standards of a dragon, but I ended up getting a silly bird who only knows how to read newspapers and play. Darn it, I want to stuff another potion down its throat and turn him into like a demon owl. Or like a big bad owl. The owl repeated like a parrot by mimicking the chubby apocryphy tone. Darkwell's expression stiffened for a few seconds before he chuckled. It's good that you know this, silly bird. That's mean. If I didn't have the powers of a beast tamer, you wouldn't have even managed a single potion. Inside the herb store, the man and the bird fell into silence. After a while, the owl pretended as though nothing had happened as it asked, Darkwell, is it really going to work? You've already entrusted this to dozens of adventurers. It's not good at finding people, so I can only entrust it to someone else. Besides, they have to find and confirm Old Man's location before I make a payment. I don't even need to spend a single penny. The chubby apocryphy tisked as he said before sighing. Old Man always calls himself a lucky person and a winner of fate. A winner of fate. He should be fine. Will the medicine brewed from this really be effective? While returning to the window of the Azure and via carriages, the Nits looked at the paper bags beside Klein. I scrolled down too much. The thing inside were black herbs, strangely shaped insect carapaces, and weirdly colored flowers. It didn't seem like anything relatable. Klein nodded. Yes, you haven't drunk it, the Nit subconsciously retorted. I trust him, although his mouth stings and is rather vile. He has a rather kind heart. Besides Captain L, I never had the impression that he had a kind heart. Back during the meetings with Isengard. Besides Captain L, I always thought he was kind of sus, but I guess not. He was a rather kind heart. Besides, Captain Ellen believes that his medicine is sufficiently effective. As German Sparrow, Klein didn't respond to the Nit's doubts. He directly picked up the paper bag and threw it over. Without needing any spoken words, the Nits knew what he meant. He was in charge of brewing the medicine. Furthermore, he was accustomed to doing similar matters recently, so he didn't have any urges to resist. After returning to the wind of the Azure Inn, Klein got a chair to sit in the wall, and he watched the Nits light up the fireplace and prop up a pot. He then added water and herbs into it. Leaning back, Klein felt his head feel groggy. He was very exhausted and felt like he could fall asleep at any moment. In order to wait for the medicine to finish brewing and for him to quickly resolve his illness, he forced himself to consider various problems to combat the fatigue. On careful consideration, during the battle of Vice Admiral Ailment, if I hadn't succeeded in sneaking in an attack on her and suppressing her from the very beginning, preventing her from getting into her rhythm until she eventually found a chance to force open a gap between us by turning invisible, then I might have not been her match. The two powers of invisibility and ailments are really like a bug in the game. Matched with an assassin's lethal strikes and the inference of pleasure, it really makes one able to find and hit her or escape. One can only watch their body gradually weaken and become inflicted with all sorts of ailments. One can even get mesmerized and give up resisting. On the other hand, it's because every sequence 5 is very powerful, as expected of a sequence just before a demigod. On the other hand, it's because Creeping Hunger's various powers aren't a good match. It cannot be considered to be multifaceted without any weaknesses. Yes, the powers of a sequence 5 marionettist of the seer pathway is highly effective against invisibility. I can try to help the chubby apocryphy find his teacher in the meantime, but without any information, with just a picture, I can only try my luck. I'll have to see when I can directly find a clue. After all, I'm not good and I can't find people remotely. Wait, in a certain way, I am a god. I can get a sea god believers to help find him. As long as an old gentleman named Roy King once visited Bayham, he would have definitely encountered the others and be seen by them. Most native residents secretly believe in sea god. This is what it means to be a sea god people. This is what it means. Wait, what? This is what it means by a sea of people. Also, before Captain Ellen leaves Bayham, I should get him to introduce me to a point of contact for the military. In the future, I can get him to reimburse me for any intel. They can also check if there were any travelers named Roy King who registered on any liners in recent months. There's another method. I've placed a radio transceiver above the Grey Fog for some time. I should be able to contact Magic Mirror or Rhodes if I take it down. I was originally planning on asking for Helene's location, but I no longer needed to find red-haired lady anymore. He can just be here whenever he wants. I can switch to Roy King. For a matter which many adventurers have no clue on how to begin, I have 3 solutions. Amidst his thoughts, Klein finally held on until the medicine was successfully brewed. Looking at the bottom of the blackish-green liquid that the Nits brought over, he hesitated for 2 seconds before extending his hand to receive it and place it in his mouth. Gulp. Klein immediately felt that his throat burned and his face flushed red. This made him recall his attempt at eating crazy spicy food in his previous life. When you eat the world's spiciest chips, right? Klein immediately felt his throat burn and his face flushed red. This made him recall his attempt at eating crazy spicy food in his previous life. Suddenly, his entire person awakened as his stuffy nose quickly cleared. Gulp, gulp, gulp. He barely finished drinking it and felt as though he had nearly recovered from his sickness. By night time, he had fully recovered. He no longer showed any doubts towards the apocryphy abilities. No wonder the potion's name is apocryphy. Klein wore his hat and left the inn with the Nits. under the cloak of the night that left Bam and came to a secret harbor hidden on the other end of the jungle. Tonight, the Golden Dream was providing aid to the resistance. After some coordination and hassle, the Nits used the soulful ritual to concoct Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina. After some time, the ship that was often scrubbed clean and had a strange main cannon, docked by the private harbor, its gigantic sails drew 5 types of golden coins. They were the gold pond of Loan, the gold horn of Fasik, and the virile gold of Intis, the gold risot of Fena Potter, and the Sassen. Bro, what are these words? And the Sassen gold of Lenberg. Sassen? This was the flag of the Golden Dream. It was the symbol of the pirate crew. Those are some. Okay, wait. It's still not professional enough. If it were me, I would add Porter Gold from Mason, Zeus, or Mazine. Zila. What kind of names are these? Mazin, Zio. Ziloti from Ziger? Zijar? Motive gold coins from Balam, etc. Bro, I'm rampaging over here. These are some really difficult words, dude. Coins from the Balam Empire. Klein stood by the set with his hands in his pocket as he watched Edwina Edwards appear at the bow. Yo, Merlin, thank you for joining, dude. Now you can spam those rampager emotes. That is, oh my, that was hard to pronounce. Yo, dude, thank you for joining. Welcome. Yo, by the way, we're currently, I think with Merlin now, we've reached 22 members. I can still add one more custom emote, but our next custom emote, I think, won't be until we at least get 30 members. So we get 8 more members, we should be able to add 2 new custom emotes, and it's like whatever happens, right? In the near inevitable future, those will be our custom emotes. And I'm just saying, I'm planning to paint my face. I'm gonna practice doing clown makeup so we can get ready for the Dunqua reacts. Like, I'm ready. We're gonna lock in, and it's gonna be sick. And that's definitely gonna be a new custom emote. So we're just gonna have and then we're gonna title that custom emote Clown Easy. So that should be fun. I'm gonna ask the missus to help me with clown makeup. So it should be pretty sick. Yeah, Pogs. Yeah, it's gonna be sick, dude. Praise the fool. At that moment, she was wearing a hunter's hat, a rider's shirt, and a black coat. She matched the image of a female pirate admiral in the mind of the resistance. She often dresses like she's a private tutor. Klein mumbled and took a few steps back, allowing the Nits to run around and busy himself. The pirate wore 5,500 pounds. The Deliasin sending a batch of food and fabric to Kalat and the resistance before the transaction came to a close. The Nits secretly inhaled and came to Klein's side and forced a smile. There's nothing else, right? I can now return to the Golden Dream, right? Also, how do you plan on setting the hiring fee? That's only an excuse your captain and I use. In a particular sense, this batch of food and fabric is my payment. Klein nodded. Your captain has already paid. You can return. For real, the Nits found it unbelievable. Although Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina wasn't far behind him, he was still afraid that German Sparrow would suddenly have a crazy fit. Klein didn't reply and turned around, walking straight towards the path that led out a private harbor. The Nits exhaled silently and held back his excited feelings before briskly running back to the Golden Dream. Only when the Golden Dream steered far away into the night when the private harbor that belonged to the Resistance slowly shrinked in size, did he really believe that he was back on the Golden Dream. Aw. It's like, finally, I'm back. Yeah, that's going to be a new custom emote right there, username. At that instant, he felt that he had experienced just too many things over the past half month or so. It was an unprecedented level of exhilarating, as though it was an interesting dream. You know what? We've been reading Volume 3 for like a little over a month now. At this moment, a sailor came close and asked out of curiosity, "Boss, was Steel Mavetti really killed by you?" The Nits immediately laughed out loud and secretly stole a glance at Captain Edwina before saying to his subordinates, "I contributed greatly to his deed. Let's talk over drinks." Above the dark sea, the Golden Dream drifted off into the distance. After returning to the Windsor Inn, Klein... he's gone! I wanted the Nits to be with Klein a lot longer. Dude, he better come back. After returning to the Wind of the Azure Inn, Klein was just about to sleep when he saw the surrounding colors turn abnormally bright. I swear, the Nits better come back. I'm growing too attached to this character for him to just leave like this. At returning to the Wind of the Azure Inn, Klein was just about to sleep when he saw the surrounding colors turn abnormally bright. The white bedsheets turned whiter and the brown floorboards turned more brownish yellow. The dark red curtains appeared like fresh blood, and the scene with all sorts of colors stacked upon each other. Zick Egger suddenly walked out from a rippling aqueous void. He was dressed in his usual shirt, bow tie, toe coat, and a top hat. His skin was bronze in color, and he had soft facial features. How envious. I also wish to have such powers of traveling through the spirit world. Klein silently sighed as he smiled in greeting while maintaining his appearance. Good evening, Mr. Zik. As Zik took off his top hat and looked at the rather unfamiliar face. Without finding it strange, he chuckled. He'll come back near the client. He better come back. Because I grew too attached to this character for him to just leave like that. He can't just walk out of my life like that. Like, I need him back, bro. Yes, but for now, Daddy is here. Little bro left, and now we got Pops. Like, he came back. He went to the food market, he got some milk, and he came back. As Zik took off his top hat and looked at a rather unfamiliar face without finding it strange, he chuckled. Apologies, I came in a hurry. I should have knocked on the door. What's the exact situation with the Death's Chronicle? Klein invited him to have a seat. He then described in detail things he couldn't explain in the letter. Towards the end, dude, yo, 10, thank you. Thank you for becoming a member, bro. Welcome to level 1. Yeah, now you can spam our custom emotes. What's the exact situation with the Death Chronicles? Dude, thank you guys. Thank you, Berlin. Thank you, 10. Klein invited him to have a seat. He then described in details things he couldn't explain in the letter. Towards the end, he mentioned in passing about the matters regarding Banshee Harbor, saying how it involved Kings of Angels Banshee and his descendants. So this is the third known king. So this is the third out of the 8th King of Angels and his descendants. Zik leaned back into his chair and said with a frown, "There's such a name in my memories. He should have the title of Red." He has 2 titles? He has the title of Red Angel and War Angel? Okay, so we have the Angel of Time, Angel of Fate, Angel of Red, and the Angel of War. I watch every VOD. It's more than worth it. Dude, thank you, man. Yeah, no, hopefully you've been liking all the videos. I know it's taking us like 6 months, but hopefully it's been fun, man. It's been a little fun. It's been a fun journey for me, that's for sure. I remember that he was killed by Blood Emperor Elise the Tutor. Wait, so he was killed by the Blood Emperor Elise the Tutor, and he had the name of Red Angel. What a coincidence. Killed by the Blood Emperor Lisa Tutor, Klein's people shrank as he recalled the evil spirit that loitered in the underground ruins beneath Backland. It had claimed to be an innocent killed by the Blood Emperor. Is that another angel? No, right? Lord China better not be slacking. No, it's okay. I still need to finish my volume 2 notes before we go back. No, it's chill. I am going to go through everything all over again in volume 3 and kind of skim all the chapters and add all the important info. Perfect. Chapter 587 is called Confusing. Never have we ever been confused. Live? Of course we're live. Yo, what's up? I'm sure you did the same for COI, but Low Team is perfect. It is. I love it. I love it so far. Confusing. Could it be that the evil spirit is the rate... The Wraith in the Tudor Dynasty catacombs back in Buckland is one of the 8 Kings of Angels? Is that what he's implying? Could it be that the evil spirit is Red Angel Medici, the King of Angels who once served that creator and was one of the founders of the Rose Redemption? So that Wraith would be on the same rank as Amon, Ouroboros, and I am under the impression that Adam is going to be another one of the 8 angels. We just don't know what's his title, because we know he was the second son that was held in the mirror depiction. But here we go. All right, let's keep reading. Klein instantly generated such a thought and began utilizing backward inference to seek out any traces or clues. What clue was there, man? The former... Oh... He had the Red Priest card of blasphemy. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I see a correlation right there. The former holder of the Red Priest card was attracted to the underground palace because of a certain level of attraction and had died beside the Tudor descendants. The evil spirit I saw in my dreams could easily kill a powerful dragon back when it was alive. Oh, I remember that dream. Yeah, he was like flying on the back of a dragon, right? The evil spirit I saw in my dream could easily kill a powerful dragon back when it was alive. It knows the potion formulas of the mutant pathway, sequence 4, and even more. It's very aware of matters. Oh, yeah, puppet, right? Puppet? Yeah, sequence 4 puppet from Sharon, right? And even more, it's very aware of matters regarding Rose Redemption. The Orthodox churches that have existed ever since the Cataclysm don't know the former Binsi and that present Bansi has a descendant of the Medici family residing there, but the evil spirit was able to provide the corresponding information. There's a very high chance of deriving this form of death from Red Angel Medici, and the King of Angels was actually killed by Blood Emperor Elisa Tudor. Does this mean that the letter had already exceeded sequence 1 and has reached the ranks of a true god at a sequence 0? It can no longer be witnessed directly. That evil spirit said so itself. and the late stages of the Fourth Epoch, Solomon Empire, Black Emperor, Tudor Empires, Blood Emperor, and Turnus Empire, Night Emperor. Night Emperor? Wait. Night Emperor. Oh yeah, it is a Night Emperor. Yeah, from the four of them. We're fighting for the position of Sequence Zero until Elisa Tudor went crazy, and then she literally just took them all out. He was at least a Sequence 4 demigod who have such might it can only be explained that the Blood Emperor was a true god level. Mr. Zick also described the revival of the true Black Emperor in his letter. He described him as sitting on a gigantic throne as he overlooked the land. For the Black Emperor to revive and return, there's a high chance that he is a true god at Sequence 0 rank. If that were the case, the War of the Four Emperors was of a rather high order than I previously imagined. Like, what do you mean? It was always supposed to be hyped up. Did he underestimate them? What? Klein connected all the dots from the past, gaining a brand new understanding of the fourth epoch history. A little bit because I see my audio hitting the red, and I don't want it to hit that high. But as a result, many questions arose. If the ancient evil spirit really is a king of angels Medici, then the underground palace might very well belong to the Blood Emperor's Lisa Tudor. Then why would there be 2 thrones of equal standing? Why would there be 6 humanoid statues of the true gods? There were 6 out of the 7 Orthodox, right? Why would the half-crazy Blood Emperor kill the Red Angel Medici after he became Sequence Zero? Which spot did he occupy? So, there are too much speculating going on right here. Which spot did he occupy? Firstly, Black Emperor can be eliminated. It can't be the Red Priest, right? Red Angel Medici was killed for its beyond characteristics, but Red Priest and the Black Emperor don't seem like neighboring pathways that allow exchanging. We don't know that. I can basically confirm that the former is paired with the Demonist pathway. Yes. Oh, okay. I can basically confirm that the former is paired with a demonist pathway. Yes. Captain mentioned before consuming the potions of other pathways might not mean death, but there's a high probability of going mad. Oh, that's why Elisa Tudor went mad. But there's a high probability of going mad and obtaining warped but terrifying powers that matches Blood Emperor's half-crazy trait. Oh. In his final steps... yeah, it's his. I keep thinking Elisa was a female. No. Elisa was a man. In his final steps, as there was no hope for Black Emperor in any neighboring pathways, he took the craziest choice and switched to another pathway that's completely unrelated. That is a little ballsy. What? That's a little ballsy. Like, why? That's completely unrelated, become half crazy as a price, but at the same time arises advancing to Red Peace requires Kings of Angels Medici to be killed, but advancing Elisa Tudor wouldn't have been able to complete it by himself unless he had more sequences first helping him or other Sequence Zero true gods. He had more sequence once helping him or other Sequence Zero true gods. Upon realizing this, the statues in the underground palace suddenly flashed past Klein's mind. I can't process this. Hold up. I need to finish my Volume 2 notes right away and post it. I sent Romero Volume 1. I'm going to send him Volume 2 this weekend, if not Monday. Upon realizing this, the statues in the underground palace suddenly flashed past Klein's mind. The Evernight Goddess statue was used in the moon as a pillow, the Earth Mother statue that hugged a baby in her bosom, the Lord of Storm statue that had lightning flashing behind him. He was like holding a trident, right? And a book in one hand. That handsome and turning blazing sun statue, the tall and royal god of combat statue, the god of knowledge and wisdom statue who wore a hood, all cast ice cold gazes at him from the darkness. And remember, he had a sinister smile. At that instant, Klein couldn't help but tremble. Ain't no way he's trembling. However, he remembered the 6 gods supported the Turnus Empire, not the Tudor dynasty, okay? The history of the 4th epoch becomes more harrowing and confusing. Tell me about it. No wonder the chapter is called confusing. I'm getting confused. The more you delve into it, Klein sighed secretly. What are you thinking about? As Zick Eggers noticed his pause, Klein said in passing, I was only thinking that since Red Angel Medici had long perished at the hands of Elisa Tudor, then who is the god of weather who was following in Banshee Harbor during the recent centuries? And what's the reason for their odd behavior? With this in mind, Klein came to a pause. That was because the matters regarding Banshee Harbor was unlike what he imagined. He originally believed that the Red Angel Medici was asleep, but his surprise, he had long perished. In that case, the secrets underlying the Green Lemon restaurant and the telegraph office became more indecipherable. He had no way of deducing anything without any further information. The more he thought about it, the more horrified he became. Could the here we go. Could the evil spirit have expected such an outcome when he indicated Binseat town. This might have been a required step for him to escape the seal. Should I tell this matter to Mr. Zik and gain his opinion? Yes. Yes, I'll let Miss Magician, who's in Backland, to monitor their area and see if there's any abnormalities. If there's none, it can wait till I return to Backland and contact Miss Sharon. After seeking her opinion, I can inform Mr. Zik. After all, it's a ruin we explored together. Oh, look at that. Sharon's gonna come back, right? He's gonna explore again with Miss Sharon. I have to respect her opinion. If there are any abnormalities, then the matter can only be expedited due to the seriousness of the issue. Quinn quickly made a decision. When Mr. Zik heard his question, he laughed. Don't think about such matters. Why not? They've definitely been buried by the Church of Storms. To forcibly seek out the reasons will only bring about extreme danger. Even at the level of an angel, there's still a chance of perishing. Not with Klein. In a mysterious world, curiosity is often the leading cause of death. Klein recalled the matters he had experienced and heard of in the past. He switched to saying, Mr. Zik, I already had a messenger that I can call my own, much faster than I imagined. Zik said with a smile. Klein simply explained how he changed the incantation and how he completed the summoning and ended up encountering an oddity in the spirit world. When summoning the spirit world creatures, there's indeed a chance of such things happening when it's not done by someone of the corresponding job. It requires repeated trial and error before obtaining the desired results, but repeated attempts make it easier to encounter dangers. Even if you add descriptions like friendly, it isn't absolutely safe. The spirit world creatures which it summoned might not have any malicious intent towards you and wouldn't wish to harm you, but it doesn't mean that its very existence won't hurt you. Perhaps just the aura it has reduces you to a pile of blood? After Zik heard about the creature whose speed surpassed imagination, the being who was easily neglected, and the creature who extremely high survivability, he laughed and warned him. After that, he asked, how did you succeed in the end? Klein said in embarrassment, I changed the final sentence to a unique being that is willing to be my messenger. Zik was taken aback for a second and curiously looked at Klein. This description is too generic. Typically, it wouldn't succeed. Perhaps I was rather lucky. Perhaps it was a coincidence, right? Perhaps I was rather lucky. Klein cautiously described his messenger's appearance and even hid the matter of her request for a gold coin. He hid that? And even hid the matter of her request for a gold coin. Zik thought over it carefully and said, I do not have an impression of this spirit world creature, but since you've already signed a contract and have had it witnessed by the underworld, she likely would have caused you any harm. However, before you fully understand her, try not to get her to do anything apart from sending letters. Alright, Klein originally wanted to say that he had nothing he needed her for others than sending letters when he recalled his battle with Mr. A. The room fell in a brief moment of silence before Klein pulled the conversation back on track. Mr. Zik, when can we head for Black Death? The longer the delay, the higher the chance of whatever he left on Black Death to be cleaned up during the daily cleaning jobs. Now? Like, right now? Now Zik stood up and put on his hat? Klein was dressed properly, and just as he was trying to find an excuse to head to the washroom to divine if there would be any danger, bro, you got a Zik. You literally don't need to divide this, my guy. Like, just go. Just trust your big bro and go. Zik grabbed his shoulder and pulled him into the spirit world. Oh my god. Amidst the stacked colors and nearly formless figures, he heard Mr. Zik say, let's begin. That direct? Don't you need to confirm things? Perhaps a big shot has his own way of determining the level of danger. Klein silently mumbled and held up his cane and began divining the location of the items he left behind. The cane flew automatically as it tumbled ahead. Zik followed closely behind, with Klein in tow as they smoothly plastered through the spur world. Before long, the black hardwood cane paused with thick black and stackable shadows ahead of it. Through this abstract scene, Klein vaguely identified it as something resembling the Black Death. Ain't no way. Bro, what do you think of the lore? Oh my god. It's overwhelming, dude. Like, just when I thought I had it figured out, there was more. And like now we're getting more stuff on the King of Angels. So I'm assuming the King of Angels are gonna be more big shots than I thought. I was under the impression it would have probably just been like Amon, Ouroboros, and like whatever Adam ends up becoming. But now we have this whole thing with Medici, and now Medici had like 2 titles. Now I'm like, okay, like this 2 title means that another angel fell, and then that angel, like, was he originally the Red Angel, and then he just also took the War Angel's title? Kind of how like we've been speculating how like, or what was it like? What's beyond sequence 0, right? Like when you're containing all these different oh my god, I forget what's the word, like all these different titles, right? I don't know. It's getting the brain jogging, I'll tell you that much. It's getting the brain jogging. At this moment, Azik's body came to a pause as he solemnly said, "The spirits here tell me that there is danger." Talk to me. There is danger, something that can make even Mr. Zik find it dangerous. Vice Admiral Ailman got help. A high-ranking member of the demonist sect. Klein frowned suddenly. He fully believed the judgment of the big shot since Sequence 7 of Death pathway was spirit medium. After advancing to the realm of demigod, being able to notice this was considered very normal. Zik half closed his eyes for 2 seconds before opening them, but the problem isn't serious. Let's go, dude. Let's enter. Problem isn't serious. That's probably the case when it's directed at you. The corners of Klein's mouth twitched as he decided to change his looks. This way, even if he was no match and had to flee pathetically, he didn't have to be afraid of someone coming to knock on his door. In an instant, Klein possesses a distinctive broad chin and cold, blackish green eyes. His hair turned brown and was tied into a bun. I'm sorry, is he turning into Helene? No, Helene had red hair. In an instant, Klein possessed a distinctive broad chin and cold, blackish green eyes. His hair turned brown and was tied in a bun and the back of his head like an ancient warrior. Who's an ancient warrior? He half disguised himself as the former owner of Creeping Hunger, Vice Admiral Hurricane Quillingus. Zik gave him a glance at the surroundings. Suddenly, he seemed to plummet as all sorts of bright colors flew by. In a blink of an eye, Klein found himself in Ailman Manny Tracy's captain cabins again. This gallant and bright female pirate who was wearing a different white shirt. On her left shoulder was a clear bandage, while her black hair was coiled up instead of cascading down abnormally. Faced with a sudden visit, she didn't show any panic but smiled. At this moment, a gentle female's voice there's somebody else, right? At this moment, a gentle voice from a difficult to identify location sounded. It's you? Shut up, dude. What is going on, bro? Okay. Wait. I know who it is. It's Elden Ring music. It's called Khaled. This place, Khaled is a pretty scary place in Elden Ring. I know who it is. I already know who it is. You know who it is? It's the mysterious female that wore leather boots back in Backland. Remember the one that held Klein in the air when he was like, "Somebody come help me," and he had to run away pathetically, right? It's her. Because why else would Klein coincidentally make that, like, oh, maybe I have to run pathetically again? What a coincidence. I think it's her. And Ailman Tracy, she wore some pretty, some really good boots. Some really good leather boots. Ooh. Dude, I love her artwork. I need more fan art on Ailman Tracy. That's, ooh. So, but now we're getting this person. I remember the only description she had was leather boots. So, come on. 2 beautiful ladies wearing leather boots. Come on. Of course it's her. All right, time stop. Let's keep reading. All right, chapter 588 is called Old. Yeah, what's up? What's up, Moon? Thank you for tuning in. Chapter 588 is called Old Acquaintance. It's you. Upon hearing this surprised and curious female voice, Client, wait, hold up. He's disguised himself as German Sparrow. So, like, unless she's sensing the same aura? Upon hearing this surprised and curious female voice, Klein jumped in fright, imagining that he had been recognized by someone. Unless somebody is recognizing him as Quillingus? He merely composed himself because he already changed his appearance to that of the deceased Vice Admiral Hurricane Quillingus. And inside Quillingus was a crazy adventurer German Sherlock. And inside German Sparrow was the identity of the great detective Sherlock Moriarty. And inside Sherlock Moriarty was the identity of Klein Moretti. And inside Klein Moretti, this wasn't the end. Deep within Klein Moretti was Mr. Fool as well as Zoe McGreary. Damn, we haven't heard the name Zoe McGreary in a cool minute. There are a lot of people inside Quillingus' body right now. There's no reason that she can directly see my true essence. Besides, how can she know of a trivial character like Klein Moretti? Even Vice Admiral Hurricane Quillingus wouldn't have left the Vice Admiral Tracy's helpers surprised. To my specialty and to be specifically invited by a Sequence 5 pirate admiral to protect herself and deal with her enemy, the person must at least be Sequence 4 demigod. Therefore, the sentence was directed at Mr. Wait, hold up, that came out wrong. But it was like from Shrek. I should have just said he's like an onion. It has a lot of layers. Klein has a lot of layers. That's what I meant. My bad. Quillingus persona has a lot of layers. So they're talking about. Oh my god. So they remember a Zik from a past life. He merely composed himself because he had already changed his appearance to that of the deceased Vice Admiral. Okay, I read this. There's no reason that she can directly see my true essence. I read this part. Therefore, the sentence was directed at Mr. Zik. The high-ranking demoness recognized Mr. Zik, who had destroyed her cooperation with the royal family in Innslinguil and Backland, or did she recognize him from one of his former lives? Klein quickly cleared his train of thought and remained guarded against Tracy and her helpers sudden attackers. He also looked through the corners of his eyes to observe Mr. Zik's reaction. I guess it makes sense, right? Deaf and the ancient demoness lady teamed up, right? He wasn't too surprised that a mysterious powerhouse would appear. Firstly, this was because Mr. Zik had already given a warning, and secondly, it was because he believed that Vice Admiral Element Tracy wasn't a self-conceiting person to almost be assassinated without knowing the assassin's backing faction's motive. There was a high probability that she would leave the sea around the Roshid Archipelago to seek help from the upper echelons of the demoness sect. The only thing that I hadn't expected was for the helper that would arrive so quickly. It was as though she was nearby or had a mystical item like that of a traveler. Title drop. Combining the female characteristics of the voice of the gentleness within it, Klein suspected that it was a demoness at the demigod. Zik stood on the thick carpet and said after 2 seconds of hesitation, "You know me." This tone sounds uncertain. Could it be that a big shot had once spent a period of time with a demoness? No, I can't think of it that way. Klein began to imagine things before he seriously felt penitent for having those thoughts. He noticed that Vice Admiral Element Tracy wore an august look. Her certainty and calm had turned into puzzlement. The gentle female voice sounded out from an unknown location again. "I obviously know you. You should also know me." Zik turned his ears to the side to listen before he shook his head and gave a youthful smile. "I'm sorry. I've repeatedly lost my memories and I'm in the midst of recovering them. If you can remind me and invoke more of my memories, I'll be very grateful to you." Upon hearing their conversation, Tracy's puzzled and confused look settled. She cautiously swept her gaze at Klein but frowned when he saw Vice Admiral Hurricane Quillingus' face. The gentle female voice sighed. "The last time we met was one..." What the fuck? The last time we met was 1,300 years ago. Okay, 1,400 years ago, Death fell. And then that's how we brought about the... No. After the War of the Four Emperors, Death teamed up with a primordial demoness and brought about a Pell disaster, but then... Wait, no, that would have been before. I'm sorry, was the Pell era before the War of the Four Emperors? It was the Pell of the era, and then it was the War of Four Emperors. So this would have been after all four. Oh, shut up. Let me keep reading. So this was before his first few lives as a Baron. Okay. Oh my God, no wonder the last chapter was called confusing. Hold up. And now we got Old Acquaintance. All right, here we go. 1,004 years ago was when Death fell, and that's when, like, Zik's memories were originally lost. Oh, here we go. Pale Era was after the War of the Four Emperors? Okay, all right. The last time we... So this would have been... So the war happened... This would be during the Pale Era? No, it's War then Pale Era. So this is... So... I'm sorry. This is the primordial demoness's daughter... I forgot her name. They mentioned her name a few streams ago. We read her name a few streams ago. So this is going to be the primordial demoness's daughter. That's like... That, yeah, this is... It has to be. Back then, the primordial... Oh, it's literally right here, the next sentence. The next sentence. Back then, the primordial and Death were working together, instigating the Pale disaster in the northern continent. You might have already forgotten... I didn't forget this. You might have already forgotten that we once fought the saints of the angels of the Church of the Evernight Goddess. We fought the saints. There were 9 saints, right? We once fought the saints of... Wait, no, saints... Oh, and... They have angels? And angels of the Church of the Evernight Goddess. Oh, wait, no, it's a rank. Hold up. Saint. Yeah, just angels is a rank, not like actual angels. Well, yes. No, I'll be quiet. Let me just keep reading. Too many thoughts. I know this piece of history. It was recorded in Emperor Rizal's diary. Mr. Dorr said that it resulted in the primordial demoness being heavily injured, and she had only managed to descend only in recent times. As for Death, he directly perished and created the Berserk Sea that separated the northern and southern continents. I forgot he was the one that made that. Okay. Oh, yeah, it was during the war. That a demigod-ranked demoness knows Mr. Zickman. Wait, I just skipped a sentence, man. This is overwhelming. Directly perished and created the Berserk Sea that separated the northern and southern continents. The demoness sect and the forces of death have previously cooperated, so it's no wonder that a demigod-ranked demoness knows Mr. Zick. Man, she's also a monster that has lived for at least 1,400 years. Klein thought with a creative mind. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're gonna read slowly. Oh my god. He didn't make it. It was Def. No, Def didn't make it, but Zick, yes. Following that, he felt puzzled again. He originally imagined that Mr. Zick had suffered heavy injuries from being glanced at Blood Emperor Alista Tudor during the War of the Four Emperors, which resulted in him constantly losing his memories and forgetting his past. However, what the demigod-ranked demoness indicated was not only that Mr. Zick survived the war. I was under the impression that he survived. Okay, so wait, hold up. We're getting answers, so hold up. Maybe my questions are going to get answered. However, what the demigod-ranked demoness indicated was that not only did Azik survive the War of the Four Emperors, but he even participated in the Pale disaster many years later. He didn't seem to have any problems in between. Azik closed his eyes as though he was trying to squeeze out his memories. After a few seconds, he asked hesitantly, Katerina Pele? I'm sorry, isn't Pele like a soccer player? Pele, like one of the best soccer players ever, right? Wait, hold up. Pele. You are already a demoness. I'm sorry. We've had sequence 5. This is a high sequence pathway. Demoness of an aging. Dude, this is crazy. This was low-key probably his companion on a more intimate level, bro. And like if they were fighting together, bro, this is crazy, dude. Don't. I swear, if it's revealed that this is his wife, I'm gonna freak out. I'm very happy that you can still remember me. I could only be considered a weakling compared to you back then. A figure outlined itself besides Vice Admiral Element Tracy. She wore a simple and pure white gown, which had high slits and revealed her flawless legs. Her skin was as white as snow and as tender as a young maiden's. The woman had black hair and blue eyes. As she looked elegant and pretty, she had an indescribable charm. She looked towards Zik Eggers as a faint smile curled at the corner of her lips. More than 1,000 years have passed. It's a cause for celebration for us to meet alive. Balam Empire's Mr. Def's console. Mr. Zik was a Balam Empire's Def. He was a console member? Mr. Zik was Balam Empire's Def console. This is the name of a ladder potion. This is the name of a ladder potion in the Def pathway. Def's console. This demoness of unaging Katerina Pele looks like she's in her 30s. She's elegant and pure, yet she exudes a mature charm. Wait, why am I thinking of this? Her pleasure charms are already that potent. Klein hurriedly moved his gaze and nearly had to use cognition to calm his emotions. Without waiting for Zik to say a word, Katerina Pele said with a melodic voice, I'm curious over why you would still be constantly losing your memories. I remember that I'm sorry. Oh, wait, we're getting... Look at chat. Sequence 4 Demoness Pathway is despair, so unaging is higher. So 3-1. Thank you. Oh, yeah. 4 is... Yes, thank you. Of despair. Got it. 5 is desire. 4 is despair. So this is either 3, 2, or 1. And that's probably not 1. Def console. And now we have Def console. So Azik is... Man. So, well, it's not confirmed that he's a Def console. She's revealing that he was a Def console, but we don't know what happened after. Oh, wait, hold up. We're about to get a review as to why he's losing his memories, right? I remember that it only happens for your pathway during the undying stage. Dying once every 60 years to revive again and forget the past. However, you have long advanced past that and has escaped from that curse. He was. Yeah, no, he was. He was a Def console. But he passed that. So he's even higher. But for some reason, he's still losing his memories? I remember that only happens for your pathway during the undying... Oh, wait, hold up. No. Undying is a separate pathway. Oh, my God. I'm forgetting. Undying stage. Dying once every 60 years to revive again and forget the past. However, you have long since advanced past and has escaped from that curse. What happened to you at the end of the Pill disaster? Bro. Okay, this is getting crazy, dude. What happened to you at the end of the Pill disaster? Bro, this is crazy. What? Wait, what are we saying? What? Nah, the memory thing happened at Undying. There's also a sequence from the... Yeah, no, yeah, Undying was a prior sequence. Yeah, no, that's what I said. Wait, did I say something? I misspoke. I know what I meant. Yes, I know Undying was a prior pathway, and Dev Console is a higher pathway. I assume it's a high sequence pathway. Got it, got it. And he's already past the Undying stage, so there's no reason for him to forget his memories, unless something happened during the Pell disaster, and that's why he's still losing his memory. No pathway sequence. Oh, it's not a pathway sequence, not pathway. Yeah. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes. Yes. Oh, it was a title. Got it. It was just a title of the Balam Empire. I thought he was like the Balam Empire. Like I thought like during the Pell disaster he was a part of the Balam Empire, and his sequence with Death's console. You had it right otherwise, yeah? Okay, sorry. I was misspeaking what I was trying to say out loud. Sorry, I do that sometimes. He was. What sequence is Undying considering Death console is sequence 3 or above? I don't know, man. I'm scared. Well, let's keep reading. Part of the Balam Empire? Yeah, I'm rampaging over here. That's me, Beck. On the inside, I'm like, wait. He's like, wait, I'm mixing shit up. Without waiting for Zik to say a word, Katarina Pele said with Milligan. Wait, what happened at the end of the Pell disaster? Huh? The 7 gods had fractured back then and treated each other as enemies. We both believed that Primordial and Death would succeed. But who knew that the proudest son and the most arrogant tyrant would bow their heads? They quickly joined forces again. If I hadn't managed to advance by chance, then I might have already perished at the end of the divine battle. I believe you should have suffered some damage which resulted in your present state. Death's perishing is itself the greatest injury for you? Ezik fell silent as he wore an indistinct, painful expression. I can't remember. At this moment, Klein realized Katerina Pele looked somewhat familiar, and he suspected her of being the white-robed lady who had led Madame Sharon onto the path of demoness. No shot, dude. Are you telling me it's her? From Volume 1. Because he fought Madame Sharon in Volume 1. And then Madame Sharon talked to another mysterious female. My God, bro. It's been like 500 chapters, bro. No, it's been like 400 chapters. I literally... Dude, Romero, pull up my notes from Volume 1. I literally put a second mysterious demoness person. So that was her. Those notes were made in like December. All right. Wow. Okay. Wow. Suddenly, Katerina's eyes turned to sweep a glance at Klein. She chuckled at a Zik. Wow, my eyes are getting blurry. Hold up. This is getting crazy. She chuckled at a Zik and said, I believe you haven't forgotten the reason for visiting today. Like, you didn't forget, right? I'm very curious why he would assassinate Tracy. Could it be for justice? If everything is connected, what the heck did original Klein meant by everybody dies, including me? Like, was he implying original Klein Moretti? Or was he implying Zoe Menguri needing... I don't know, man. I'm not even going to finish that sentence. Like, was, like, Klein speaking about himself? Or was he talking about, like, Zoe Menguri, you know? If it's all connected, it has, like... You know, what is Chapter 1 even called? If everything is connected... Bro, Chapter... You guys said that really quick. Chapter 1 is called Crimson. So, we are referencing the Red Moon. How am I only just realizing? Chapter 1 is called Crimson. The Crimson Red Moon. The Red Moon is going to be like a crazy... I'm telling you, the Red Moon has to be like a cocoon, or like it has to be like the physical manifestation of like the original creator, or like say like maybe that's like has something to do with like what's beyond Sequence Zero. You think it's gonna be like Attack on Titan situation? Dude, literally, yes. It's exactly like that, Vec. Like chapter 1, literally to you in 13, like to you in 1,300 years, or and then you get the other chapter where it's like reverse, right? Like a letter from 1,300 years ago. And there's gonna be something like that. There's gonna be a chapter called like Crimson, or it's gonna be like Red. Hold up, like there's gonna be a chapter where we're gonna reference, like, it's probably gonna be the full title. It's gonna be like Crimson Moon, right? Or like Crimson Red Moon. I don't know. And then that's gonna it's gonna tie back. You know what? I don't even want to look at what's the last chapter, but I bet you the last chapter of Lord of the Mysteries has to be related to like Crimson. That like ain't no shot, bro. Like we got Ouroboros in this. The only spoiler I know is that the word Ouroboros comes up in COI. Full circle, bros. Full circles, brothers and sisters. This is crazy. Like if he already set up this character from like volume 1 and was gonna bring her back in volume 3, like bro, what did he mention in volume 1 that's gonna come back in volume 8? Cuttlefish is such a damn good writer. Wow, he is great. I wish I was this good. Oh my god, dude. The glance the demoness of the unaging swept over was filled with hidden amorousness and aromeousness and sweet playfulness. She resembled an underage young maiden, and her facial features and bearing had magically accentuated that feeling. She didn't have the jarring feeling of a mature lady acting young at all. At that moment, Klein viewed her as a maiden who was 16 or 17. She can already perfectly present every charm a woman can bring. She has the skin, facial features, and bearing to match it. As expected of a demoness of unaging, Klein had already attempted to use cogitation to resist the indescribable charm. He took the initiative to look at ailment maiden Tracy. Do you know the tycoon named Jenny? Jenny? Hold up. Am I pronouncing this wrong?
Do you know the tycoon named Jimmy Necker?
Tracy gaped her mouth before Dude, that sounded wrong. I'm not even gonna lie. That just sounds like you're flying too close to the sun saying Jimmy's last name. That's crazy. Yeah, moving forward, we're just gonna say Jimmy, because text to speech, I think it just had a stroke. I don't know what the hell went on right there. Tracy gaped her, and I don't think that's how you're supposed to say. Yeah, we're just say Jimmy. Be careful. Yeah, we're just gonna say Jimmy. Moving forward, anytime I see something like that and I need text to speech, we're just gonna say Jimmy. We're just gonna say the first names now. Tracy gaped her mouth before closing it again. It's Saul Good. Someone call Saul Goodman, bro. My text to speech is tripping out, dude. Tracy gaped her mouth before closing it again. She replied blankly and aggrieved, "Who is he? You might not know him. He once collected a batch of ancient chronicles related to death. He died at the hands of Vice Admiral Hurricane Quillingus," Klein said while bearing the appearance of Vice Admiral Hurricane Quillingus. Tracy narrowed her eyes. She wore a dazed look before turning angry. You came for those documents. It really is in your hands," Klein determined based on her tone. He answered indifferently, "That's right." Tracy inhaled slightly and said, "Where's Helene? Did you do anything to her? I know she's still alive. If something happened to her, my spirituality intuition will tell me." Klein did an attempt to speak ambiguously as he directly answered her. She had already returned to Intis to lead a brand new life. Tracy's expression sank. A storm raged in her eyes as the aura of Pirate Admiral fully revealed itself. However, a Zik casually swept his gaze over and instantly made her calm down. The corners of her lips curled up. I thought I said bitch. That batch of documents from the mausoleum of the Balam's Empire royalty is indeed in my hands. But I wasn't interested in it. I flipped through it casually before handing it to the Zek. Hey, even if you have succeeded in assassinating me, you wouldn't have received it. I didn't read much, so even if you channeled my spirit, I wouldn't be able to reproduce it. Unfortunately, I can't bear to part with my life. Otherwise, it definitely would have been interesting to see your disappointment. Klein calmly said, "No, I wouldn't be disappointed. I can obtain your soul and characteristic of a demoness of affliction. I can graze you and subdue you." Damn, bro. Beast tamer or what, bro? Damn. Shit. As he spoke, he raised, maybe he low-key is kind of is a beast tamer with creeping hunger. Yeah, he's shit talking back, bro. As he spoke, he raised his left palm, which had creeping hunger on it. It was in the shape of a black glove. Tracy narrowed her eyes. The look in her eyes became extremely dangerous, like a provoking tiger. We need to take out. Hold up. I'm gonna cut that joke. Sorry. I'm a pause. If not for the two high sequence Beyonders beside her, she might have already attacked. At that moment, Klein finished his sentence. He noticed something amiss. "I'm not acting as German Spar at the moment, so why am I speaking in accordance with his persona?" Klein was alarmed as he suspected whether he had been too into character recently. He's too into character. "Remember, you can only be yourself. I cannot be influenced by the character I act as." Oh, shit, you're right. You'll lose control. Like, you have to tame it, right? Like, you have to beast tame it. I understood that reference. Yeah, you have to be chill when you're acting. I cannot be influenced by the character I act as because of prolonged acting. This will cause me to become lost and result in losing control. He quickly reflected on himself and added his conclusions into acting principles of a faceless. Noticing his brief silence, Zik looked at Katerina Pele and said in his usual tone, "Can you copy a set of those documents for me?" "That's not a big problem." Katerina gave Tracy a glance. "Any requests?" Tracy stared at Klein and said with a clearly hoarse voice, "Tell me where Helena is." Klein withdrew his thoughts and looked at her back before looking at the pure demoness of unaging Katerina. He had already made his decision, but he couldn't help but feel hesitant. He turned to look at Mr. Zik and discovered his warm smile. He wasn't urging him or forcing him. Klein retracted his gaze and simply said, "I refuse." Oh, wait, Cammy, you're actually right. Bro is making references to himself. Let's keep reading, dude. All right, chapter 589 is called Sowing Discord. For an instant, Klein imagined that Tracy would directly attack him. As her face was already flushing red with anger, her blue eyes had turned dark like the surface of a sea god before an impending storm. But eventually, Tracy didn't act rashly. She looked towards Katerina Pele and awaited the decision of the demoness of unaging. She knew very well that although Sequence 5 and Sequence 4 were just separated by one level, there was a qualitative difference between them. There was no way to bridge the gap with one's battle skills or execution. One was a normal human with special powers, while the other was already a demigod, a legendary creature possessing godhood. Furthermore, the two present were clearly not Sequence 4. Placed before them, Tracy felt like she was a low Sequence beyond her. She's like, oh, hey. She's like, I'm out of match, bro. Yeah, these are good chapters, dude. Like, it's crazy. Like, she feels like a low Sequence beyond her. Katerina Pele didn't seem furious. She looked at Klein, who wore a face of Quilligus, and chuckled as her eyes moved across him. What an interesting lad. If not for Mr. Dev Console being here, I might have not revealed the upheavals within my heart and have an unexpected encounter with you, which will lead you into having a pure and romantic story with you. Let me read that again. What an interesting lad. If not for Mr. Dev's Console being here, I might have not revealed the upheavals within my heart and have an unexpected encounter with you, which you would lead into having a pure and romantic story with you. No, you don't want to. This sounds really terrifying. Klein didn't dare to look at her and continued looking at Tracy. Seeing no response from Zik Eggers, Katerina retracted her gaze and said to Tracy with her melodious voice, "Embrace the afflicted pain. This might be something beneficial for you." She then looked towards Zik. I remember that batch of documents. I remember that batch of documents. It records the various attempts used by the Balam royalty to revive Death, but unfortunately, they were trying to revive Death. Yeah, as long as you have the mausoleums. By the royalty to revive Death, but unfortunately, they seemed to fail miserably. Towards the end, they seemed to consider creating an artificial Death. Are you still interested? An artificial Death. How can Death be artificial? Oh my god, they're setting up a Zik, huh? How can Death be artificial? Oh, yeah. If this ain't gonna be a Zik, I don't know what is. Apart from the uniqueness and beyond her characteristics, maybe him losing his memories is part of his uniqueness. And beyond her characteristics, how can there be other methods? It's not like it's something you can find on the street. Was the former Balam Empire and the present numinous Episcopate all crazy? Klein mumbled silently and didn't interpret the conversation between the demigods. Zik pondered for 2 seconds before asking, "What price do I need to pay?" Katerina smiled youthfully. "No, there's no need. I thought it over. Helping you gain your memories and find your past in order to become the Deaf Console from before should be a rather interesting manner." No. The Mausoleum Resurrection is Black Emperor's ability. Oh, I thought it was Death's, and I thought it said something along the lines that Black Emperor took inspiration from Death, and that's how he can come back. Like, I thought Death was the one with the 9 inverted pyramids, and then the Black Emperor took inspiration and kind of mimicked that ability. Oh, okay. This can bring more changes and fun to the world? No? Okay, thank you. So it was the Black Emperor, not Death. Those words sound like a rebellious teenage girl. A demoness of amazing not only doesn't age in body, but in mind as well. Mausoleums are connected to Death. I thought that was what was connected to Death. Yeah, I thought that's what. No, they took inspiration in the design of the mausoleum, not the ability itself. But the 9 mausoleums... Oh, they took inspiration, but the 9 mausoleums are the Black Emperor. Inverted mausoleums are connected to the death pathway, yes. But the 9... Okay, got it. Okay, sorry. Now I got it. Got it. Thank you, guys. I thought it over, helping you regain your memories and find your past in order to become the dev console from... Let me read this part again. From before should be a rather interesting matter. This can bring more changes and fun to the world. These words sound like a rebellious teenage girl. A demoness of unaging not only doesn't age in body, but in mind as well. Klein felt it somewhat impossible to grasp her thought process. Perhaps only a sequence 6 or 5 or even sequence 4 of the spectator pathway can tell, he subconsciously guessed. Zik nodded and extended his right hand. A piece of paper and a fountain pen in the room automatically blew over, as though invisible spirits were at his service. After scribbling, he threw the paper over. You can summon my messenger. So though there's only one copper whistle, for it to remain effective for more than 1,000 years, the copper whistle is definitely no simple item. Klein instinctively wished to reach out to touch Zik's copper whistle inside his pocket, but he held back. Katerina caught the piece of paper and scanned it before pursing her lips into a smile. I thought you would have directly told me where in the underworld. I thought you would have directly told me where in the underworld. She looked up at her blue eyes, effused an indescribable warmth as she smiled faintly. I still remember how Mr. Dev Console from before was such a powerful but cold man. He left a deep impression on me. Okay. I'm also curious as to why you would become so soft. Zik held his fist to his mouth and shook his head with a bitter smile. I'm immortal, but that doesn't mean I don't age. Once a person ages, they will often become placid. No, Katerina's eyes flickered deep down as she said without concealing anything. I look forward to the day where you recover all your memories. I wish to see how you would evaluate the present you. Upon saying that, she curled her lips slightly and winked at Klein. Yo. All right, we got to look at more artwork. So Zik might not be so good when he recovers all his memories. It looks like Zik was... Well, no, maybe not bad, but like he's going to become more like menacing or like cold. This is kind of scary. Perhaps we will release an existence more evil than a devil? This is her trying to sow discord, right? I understood that reference. Title drop. This is her trying to sow discord, right? Klein muttered inwardly, but he couldn't help but recall the pale disaster records and many historical books in the church tomes. It had caused a large number of casualties and had turned the northern continent into a living hell. And this disaster was mainly led by Death and a primordial demoness with Death's entourage and the demoness sect from the southern continent. And the entire matter, Mr. Zik, who is known as Death Consul, definitely played a rather important role. Zik fell silent for a few seconds as he grabbed Klein's shoulder and pulled himself into the spirit world and traversed it. Instantly, there was only demoness of unaging Katerina, Pele, and Vice Admiral Element Tracy left in Black Death's captain's cabin. The latter looked at the spot where the two had disappeared, and after taking a while to calm herself, he clenched her teeth and said, I'll never forget this matter. Katerina resumed her pure demeanor and smiled faintly. Feel the afflicted pain. The more pain you feel, the more you will realize how weak you are. When the pain reaches a threshold, the desire to change yourself... Ooh. I feel like someone's digesting her potion. The desire to change yourself will reach a certain intensity, allowing you to withstand the potion and obtain a godhood during the ritual to become a demigod. So it's one of her rituals? To become a demigod. When Tracy heard this, she suddenly thought of something. Her expression froze as she blurted out, Helene was able to escape the Black Death because of... Katerina smiled mildly. You are my youngest child? What the... Okay, what? That's her mom? You are my youngest child, but you are the ones who's most promising at becoming a demigod. As a mother, I will naturally want to help you. Tracy's facial muscles twitched as she said with a warped expression, That's right. I have a mother like you and a mom? I have a mother like you and a mom. Why didn't you tell me the truth in the beginning? You clearly knew the mid and low sequences of several other pathways. Katerina turned her body as her white gown fluttered. She said ethereally, We all need to approach the primordial. We are all her children. As she's okay, she's not like biologically her mom. She's speaking metaphorically. Oh my god, you know what I mean, right? She's speaking in riddles. We are all her children. As she spoke, surging but silent black flames soared over the huge sailboat, which was dozens of meters long. The flames covered every corner as they burned silently without injuring any other pirates of the Black Death, as though they were clearing up any accumulated dust. The stacked colors quickly receded, and an indescribable transparent figure went far into the distance. Klein spiritually suddenly stirred, and he felt the items he had left on the Black Death had all vanished. As expected of a demoness of an aging, Klein sighed. Just as he was about to say something, he felt himself plummet. He had left the spirit world with Azik. He found themselves in a mountain valley with a river flowing. There were fertile fields with a manor and town that was built in Lowenist style. Klein looked around and discovered that he was standing in the dark cemetery. Then that had long been abandoned. Mr. Zik, he shouted in puzzlement. Azik walked to a grave with a broken tombstone that was covered in weeds. He said solemnly, after meeting Katerina Pele, I recalled some matters again. Who is he talking to? I once told you that in a particular dream in one of my lives, I had a... Let me reread this part again. Is Tracy Azik's daughter? Azik walked to a grave with a broken tombstone that was covered in weeds. He said solemnly, after meeting Katerina Pele, I recalled some matters again. I once told you that in a particular dream in one of my lives, I had a daughter. She had soft black hair and enjoyed sitting in a swing I made myself while requesting sweets from her. When traversing to the spirit world, I suddenly sensed the call of my bloodline. Okay, maybe, no, it's not her. Klein was infected with his emotions and yes, solemnly. Is this her? No? Okay, hold up. No, it's not her. Okay, the Elden Ring music is a little loud. Let me lower it. Hold up. The Elden Ring music got a little too loud. As Zig nodded and crouched down, he touched the half tombstones and broke his face, and as his bronze face wore a gentle, sorrowful, confused look. Oh, this is her grave. If I recall correctly, she's been dead for 926 years. 926 years. Klein wanted to say something, but he was stopped by the extended period of time. Music kicked in right on time, please. Read the previous message. Did I miss something? The father turned into a woman and became the second mom. Katerina is Tracy's biological mother. Her father drank JB? What did he drink? That's wild. The witch potion and became her mom. That is... I have so many feelings. Okay. Thank you guys for informing me on that. I did not... I thought maybe she was like a stepmom and like adopted her and took her in because they were part of the demoness sect. He drank the witch potion and became a woman, and then by that, he became her second mom. Oh my god. Wow. Dude, that Rampager emote actually goes crazy now. Holy shit, I think that's gonna be my new favorite emote, unironically. Okay, let me find my place and let's keep reading. Wow. If I recall correctly, she's been dead for 926 years. 926 years, Klein wanted to say something, but he was stopped by the extended period of time. If it wasn't for the church's compelling people to be buried in cemeteries and providing a certain degree of surveillance, it would have been hard to find this grave and tombstone since there hadn't been any all-out war since the 5th epoch. A human's life was on the order of decades, but this was 926 years. After a long moment of silence in the cemetery, Azik got up again and grabbed Klein's shoulder. I'll send you back first. After a few minutes of traversing the spirit world, Klein saw the white bed sheets and yellowish-brown floorboards. Azik pressed down on his hat and said in a deep voice, I'll continue my journey while you continue your adventures. Klein nodded. Just as he was about to say something, he saw Mr. Zik curl his lips and smile. Were you afraid that I would become an evil person like a demoness after fully recovering my memories? That's exactly what I'm thinking, dude. Before Klein could reply, Azik sighed. I'm also... This better not be foreshadowing, bro. I'm also very worried, but I have a greater desire for discovering myself. After that, the surrounding aqueous void around him rippled as he vanished from the room. For a long period of time, Klein stood in spot silent. That is a little too on the nose, my guys. That's a little scary. He shook his head and laughed silently as he consoled himself. Perhaps when the time comes, I'll already be a powerhouse at the level of an angel. I can establish a treatment facility and treat antisocial personalities and have Miss Justice be the head doctor. Retracing his thoughts, Klein sat down and habitually reflected over his operation. I originally thought that I could graze a Demons of Affliction and obtain Dev's Chronicles while making further progress in human disappearances. Who knew that the development and outcome were completely out of my expectations? I only managed to complete the initial goals. Sigh, I cannot incite Mr. Zig to take action since he hasn't completely recovered. Furthermore, the person we were facing was a demoness of unaging. What's most important is to be strong to myself. Relying on myself is better than asking for help from others. On careful consideration, I do rely on myself most of the time. I can attract the human disappearances cases from the Angels of the Buyers, the crazy Captain Connors, Victor. Klein changed his sitting posture and nodded to himself as he murmured inwardly, the greatest gain that I received was to establish the preliminary acting principles of a faceless. It's to get into character and be detached, overcome any aversions, and to be careful about being immersed in a role. This way, by relying only on simple, ordinary, real acting, perhaps it will take a year or two. No shot it's going to take him a year or two. I thought we were going to digest this sucker in like a few chapters, bro. Perhaps it will take a year or two to digest the potion, but for me, I should be... Oh, never mind. But for me, I should be able to fully digest it in about 4 to 6 months. Oh, yes. We are definitely digesting this potion, like, towards, like, the final act of this volume, and then we're going to get the reveal for, like, the next sequence. Okay. But for me, I should be able to fully digest it in about 4 to 6 months. After reflecting on the matter, Klein prepared to sleep. He planned on taking down the radio transceiver from above the gray fog once it was daybreak, so as to establish communications with the magic mirror Arrodes. Of course, he was first to divine the level of danger above the gray fog. Ain't no way. We're going to get an Arrodes chapter. We are getting an Arrodes chapter. All right. 590 is called Arrodes Bottom Line. These were actually 2 crazy chapters. Yes. I never once... Man... okay, hold up. It wasn't freaky what the dad did. Him becoming her new mother, right? After they lost their mom. But still, that's kind of wild. Volume 3 has been kind of wild, man. It's crazy, man. The world of Lord of Mysteries gets more and more mysterious as we read. All right, let me quick pause. Are you guys ready, though? Chapter 590. We're so close to 600. It's called Arrodes Bottom Line. Early in the morning... Wait, we can't even sing music, right? That'll get picked up. Early in the morning, above the gray fog, Klein conjured a pen and paper as he deliberated over the divination statement. Using the radio transceiver is dangerous. I feel like I should change this music. This music is way too groovy. All right, let's reread this again. Early in the morning, above the gray fog, Klein conjured a pen and paper as he deliberated over the divination statement. Using the radio transceiver is dangerous? After carefully checking the statement twice, he took the spirit pendulum under his left sleeve and began divination. During this process, he was on high alert and was somewhat afraid. He was like a child covering his ears while lighting firecrackers. Been there, done that. If the outcome involved the true creator or the primordial demoness, then he would encounter danger simply from divination. If it were any other person, they would end up losing control or dying. However, Klein had the gray fog to shield him and preventing him from having such a tragic outcome. Hence, it was obvious that anything that happened above the gray fog was better than courting death in the real world. He was afraid that using it repeatedly would allow the evil gods to lock onto him and personally pay him visits. Ooh, that's true. I lost my place. He quickly entered the state of cognition and silently recited divination. After chanting 7 times, he knew the answer without opening his eyes since he was completely fine sitting there in his seat and wasn't suffering any extreme pain. When Klein looked at the dangling topaz, he discovered that it was indeed spinning clockwise. Klein heaved a sigh of relief and immediately returned to the real world and began preparing a ritual to bring the radio transceiver from above the gray fog to the real world. After about an hour, he finally heard the radio transceiver produce its clicky-clack, an illusionary piece of white paper that was spat out with lines of lowness words written on it. What was it? Greetings, master, right? Great master, is that you? Why does it feel like it's craning its neck? Klein started to recall the emotions from his previous life. It was an adorable alpaca that craned its neck out. He took 2 steps forward and tersely answered in a reserved manner. Amidst clicking sounds, more illusionary paper was spat out. Your loyal and humble servant arose at your service. Klein hid the discomfort in the depths of his heart and asked Arrodes, tell me, where is Roy King from the Life School of Thought? Due to the chubby apocryphal descriptions, he knew that the organization developed itself based on the master and appearance system. He inferred that they grasped the two beyond pathways of monster drop, and apocryphy. This matched the characteristics of the Life School of Thought. Great master, is that you? Why does it feel like it's cracking its neck? I read this already. Your loyal and hubbard servant, Arrodes, at your service. Klein hid the discomfort in the depths of his heart and asked, Arrodes, tell me. I just read this. Meanwhile, Klein prepared Roy King's picture with the intention of relying on himself rather than on others. The tapping sounds intensified as Arrodes produced a portrait with a radio transceiver. It was none other than Roy King with his hair neatly combed back while wearing a framed pair of glasses. Is this him? I think so. A line of lowness appeared behind the portrait, Klein asked. Klein nodded, yes. Arrodes made the transceiver tapping sound turn abnormally brisk. Abnormally brisk? Did I read that right? Abnormally brisk? Great master, the person you wish to find is imprisoned in the Governor General's office in the city. Are we doing a heist? Are we doing a prison break? In the Governor General office of the City of Generosity, Bayham. Locked in the Governor General's office, Klein frowned slightly and wasn't in a rush to continue asking. He said with confidence and frankness, all right, according to your rules, it's your turn to ask. Tap, tap, tap. Arrodes used a radio transceiver to produce a smiley face and a line of text. I've already asked and you have already answered. When that happened, Klein was taken aback before looking at the content before the illusory piece of paper. He saw the previous question, is it him? This works, that actually counts. In that instant, Klein finally understood how much freedom Arrodes had in its rule. Against any ordinary person, it could be as strict and violent as it wanted, and even needed spectators. But when it came to Klein, those rules were ignored, and he blatantly made it easy. How did this guy adopt such a personality? Klein considered for 2 seconds before asking another question. Arrodes, do you know the boat Grozel's travels? Arrodes fell silent for 2 seconds before making the radio transceiver type. It spat out more illusory paper. Great master, your description is too nice for me. Your description is too nice for me. All I need to do was answer yes to be done with the question. I've modified the question a little, changing it to tell me what you know about Grozel's travels. This is a very magical book. Many of its owners have vanished. I'm unable to tell who its creator it is, but I'm certain that it first appeared among the dragons. Among the disappearance of City of Miracles lives Sied. Oh, in the mind world. It appeared after the City of Miracles lives Sied. City of Miracles, Miracle Invoker. Klein is going to hit sequence 2. Yeah. Mr. Zaratul said a true miracle is... and it's called City of... Hold up, I never thought about this. City of Miracles. City of Silver lives Sied, which was conjured by the Dragon of Imagination, Enquold. I might be able to recommend this to Miss Justice. She might be interested. If she really wishes to buy it, as a middleman, I can study it ahead of time above the Great Fog. If something bad happens from the study, resulting in the complete destruction of the book, I can tell her the seller went back on their words and a refund was made. Thinking of this being a platform is really promising. Klein thoughts raced as he said to the radio transceiver, it's your time. I do want to know what kind of odd question you asked. Klein thought silently. Arrodes didn't pause as he produced a line in lowness. Great master, I've already asked and you have already answered. When that happened, Klein looked in confusion and amusement at the first few pages of the illusory paper before finally seeing the so-called questions at the beginning. Great master, is that you? I have to say that this magic mirror named Arrodes really shows no shame when it tries to suck up to me. However, such a paired question format really satisfies an OCD. It's like the AND operator back when I studied programming languages myself. Klein, oh, people did say he was a tech guy, right? Operator back when I studied programming language myself. Klein cleared his throat and continued asking, why was Roy King imprisoned in the Governor General's office? The radio transceiver produced its clicky-clack and spat out illusory paper. Ever since the disappearance of the Snake of Mercury from the Life School of Thought, the organization fractured and encountered plenty of danger. Some even died at the hands of the Rose School of Thought. The Life School of Thought, developed in a secretive manner, was the master in appearance format, but they have an elder council among the upper echelons. They harmonize conflicts between the different internal factions. Since the 5th epoch, the Elder Council changed to a more trendy name known as the Fate Council. There were 7 councils, and the Snake of Mercury is the president. Oh my god, we're getting more lore. All right, it keeps on coming. Roy King's teacher is one of the Fate counselors and has got into trouble after the Snake of Mercury's disappearance, Will Ossipton. And before this, he had handed an important sealed artifact of the Life School of Thought to Roy King. This is the reason why Roy King was secretly captured by the lone military. The disappearance of the Snake of Mercury, Klein instantly made the connection to Will Ossipton, who was hiding in Backland, as well as the other Snake of Mercury that has been pursuing him without even showing its face. Klein suspected the other Snake of Mercury to be Angel of Fate Ouroboros. So the Angel of Fate Ouroboros is sequence 1. An angel. I think there's fan art of there's artwork of him, right? Should I look at it or should I wait? Like, should I wait before looking at Angel Fate Ouroboros? Or should I like look at it now? I feel like I should wait until he's like until we like physically see him, right? The Life School of Thought Snake of Mercury is definitely not the one searching for Will Ossipton, as he has made plenty of opportunities to contact his organization and not be missing. Wait, we'll wait. Whis was shown art of him? No? Okay, so we'll wait. Okay. His organization and not missing. Perhaps it's Will Ossipton or a third snake. This cannot be determined. Klein gently nodded and said to the radio transceiver, ask. I'm sure you haven't asked me any other questions. Hey, let's see what you'll ask. I have to say, people have a little bit of a masochism in them. People have a little bit of masochism in them. I'm just saying. Gurman should have partaken in a little bit of masochism. I feel like he would have fully digested that sucker. He would have fully digested Faceless, man, if he went all in. He probably would have lost control on the spot, to be honest. He's like, wait, I'm only acting. He's like, no, I'm too Gurman right now. Others are afraid of Arrodes questions, but it has already waved off 2 questions for me. Now, I do wish for it to formally ask me a question. Klein waited with piqued interest. Tap, tap, tap. The radio transceiver sound suddenly became somewhat solemn as the illusionary piece of paper spat out with increasing difficulty. Well, great master, what should I do to be a better loyal and humble servant? I've underestimated your bottom line. Klein restrained his exasperated expression as he replied in a deep voice, just maintain your present state. Alright, the tapping sounds became lighter again and the aura is about to disappear. Your loyal and humble servant, Arrodes, awaits for you at your service. Finally, Arrodes added a drawing of a hand waving. It's really talented. That's right, it's not hard for a magic mirror to know that knows so much. To know such things, Klein watched as the radio transceiver turned silent. He took a few steps and sat at the edge of the bed, considering the matter regarding Roy King. He had no intentions of infiltrating Bayham's Governor General's office and rescuing Roy King under the military's tight security. This was because he didn't know the man at all, and he hadn't even seen himself. The only connection they had was through the chubby apocryphy. Why are we seeing by Arrodes? What? By Arrodes? He left? Did Arrodes leave already? My fave chat GPT. The basement of the Church of Storms definitely had many Beyonders locked up there. But what has that got to do with me? Klein chuckled as he shook his head. And the information provided to him by Arrodes... Oh, because Arrodes left in the story. And the information provided to him by Arrodes, Klein noticed that the mystical atom, which Admiral Blood Senor had, which made him sufficiently lucky, came from the Life School of Thought. There was a high probability that the faction back in the Pirate Admiral was Rose School of Thought. They were taking advantages of the Snake of Mercury disappearance so they could kill members of the Life School of Thought. This also reminds me that I need to be more careful than before when dealing with the Pirate Admirals. Vice Admiral Element Tracy has gotten demoness of unaging Katerina Pele without any notice. The other Pirate Admirals wouldn't be without their supporters. They often represent a faction and organization. Admiral Blood is backed by the Rose School of Thought, while Admiral Stars is backed by the Moses Ascetic Order, as well as for our Tarot Club. The backer of Admiral Hull is likely the numinous Episcopate and the King of the Five Seas. As for Vice Admiral Iceberg, she likely backed by the Church of God and Knowledge and Wisdom. The backers for Vice Admiral Deep Sea and Vice Admiral Dusk? I don't remember Dusk. Vice Admiral Dusk are currently unknown, but it's definitely impossible that they've relied solely on themselves to reign supreme over the seas for so many years. Now, on second thought, which faction was backing Vice Admiral Hurricane Quillingus? The one that gave him creeping hunger, or an unspeakable organization that instigated him to assassinate Duke Negan? The Twilight Hermit Order. As Klein's thoughts varied, he suddenly thought of something. The paper crane that was personally folded by the Snake of Mercury, Will Ossipton, was still with him? Okay. Next chapter. 591. Chapter 591, making good use of things. Everything's good, everything's updated, yes. Klein's memories of the paper crane were still fresh on his mind. Back then, Will Ossipton had used this item to locate Dr. Aaron's astral projection and inject information into him while he was dreaming of the spirit world. In his dreams, it created a revelation that evolved into a specific dream. Klein later exchanged a paper crane he had folded himself for Will Ossipton and had gone above the gray fog to make a divination. He failed to gain any effective conclusions until Dr. Aaron's wife got pregnant. By calculating the time and from his understanding of the situation between a sequence 1 and a sequence 0, he guessed that Will Ossipton was performing a cyclic restart, and he guessed that Will was in an intense battle with another Snake of Mercury for the position of sequence 0, and the nightmare that came from the paper crane was only an auxiliary outcome. Its true purpose was to help Will Ossipton secretly become a fetus. What was most humorous? What was most humorous? What was most humorous about this matter was that the paper crane that Klein had folded had ended up being treated as the original. As the original from Will Ossipton, and the Nighthawks had used even cruder means to replicate one to swap. I remember, and Klein was like, "Look at this! This is such a shitty paper." This is such a shitty replica. Will Ossipton's paper crane had always been above the gray fog after I had thrown it up there. I never forgot about it. Performing divination on it can only gain an extremely vague revelation. If there weren't any other developments, it would be hard to infer that the child conceived by Dr. Aaron's wife was Will Ossipton. On the contrary, Will Ossipton can use it to locate it in the spirit world, just like how Arrodes can rely on the gray fog's... What? Will Ossipton can use it to locate it in the spirit world, just like how Arrodes can rely on the gray fog's aura to connect to the radio transceiver via the spirit world. Okay? And there seems to be some possibility for this matter. Klein suddenly sat straight and had an extremely creative idea. He wanted to use the paper crane to communicate with Will Ossipton in the... He's gonna talk to a baby? He wanted to use the paper crane to communicate with Will Ossipton in a dream. He's gonna enter a baby's dream. This might not be of any use to me, the present me. There might even be certain hidden dangers. But if Will Ossipton is really the snake of fate from the life school of thought, my act of providing him with intelligence will definitely win me a favorable impression towards an existence at the level of a king of angels. It's necessary to make investments ahead of time. If I wait until he's really born, he might have some malicious intent. I might be repaid dozens of times over. So it could actually work out. This will benefit him. Since I won't die from trying, I can still revive if I die. It's crazy how confident he is in this. Although Klein had such a thought, he was in a fact very cautious. He planned on divining the danger above the gray fog before deciding on executing his plan. After busying himself and confirming the danger involved was acceptable, he used a ritual to bring back the paper crane from above the gray fog into the real world. Those chapters are peak. It's getting good, dude. Perhaps it was because it came from a sequence 1 snake of fate. The paper crane didn't exhibit any peculiarities from its prolonged stay above the gray fog. It remained ordinary. I hope the aura above the gray fog didn't neutralize its uniqueness. Otherwise, Will Ossipton won't be able to locate it. The sequence before snake of fate is soothsayer. Would this matter already be within Will Ossipton's expectations? The reason why he chose Dr. Aaron is because he's my friend. And by doing so, he established a connection with me. Am I being too narcissistic? How this person is worth suspecting. After Will Ossipton used a paper crane to locate Dr. Aaron, he could have directly reincarnated. So why did he repeatedly make him have nightmares? Furthermore, I don't get that part. Furthermore, the dream also indicated the struggle between the Snake of Fates. Take an ordinary person. They would neither understand it or play a meaningful role in this matter. Isn't this like using a gaze to entice a blind person? Will Ossipton created the dream for me? Klein frowned slightly and he had certain guesses. He suppressed his puzzlement and picked up a fountain pen. As he filled it with ink, he considered a sentence to leave the paper crane to garner Will Ossipton's attention. Klein, this is wild. Like, why would he talk? This is so crazy that he's going to be able to communicate with him. What should I write? Klein recalled what Arrodes had informed him about the situation with the life school of thought, and he felt that there was one line that could encompass everything while feeling extremely fresh and filled with emotions. That line was, "Your home blew up." This sentence is overly crude and direct while lacking manners. Besides, Will Ossipton might not be the president. Will Austinton might not be the president of the life school of thought. Klein deliberately and slightly spread open the paper crane. On the different surfaces, he wrote different words that formed a very short sentence. Roy King has been captured. After doing all this, Klein put down the fountain pen and paper, the paper crane, and into his wallet, just like Dr. Aaron had done. Oh, I haven't turned off the air. I'm so dumb. And the periphery of the roasted sea, on a gigantic fog-covered island far from the main sea routes, amidst a shrill cry, a blue bird of prey that resembled a shadow had plummeted from the sky and crashed heavily into the ground. Its head soil scattering as its blood splattered. Alger Wilson remained cautious. He stood far away and raised his left hand, which had an iron-black ring on his thumb. He pointed at the terrifying beyonder creature known as the Blue Shadow Falcon. On the tip of the ring was a spike-like protrusion. It was tainted with old blood, looked ancient and sinister. This was a mystical item he had bought from the artisan using Stu Mavetti's bounty. He publicly claimed that it cost him 5,200 pounds, despite actually only costing 3,100 pounds. The ring's name was Whip of Mind. It could deliver irresistible, intense mental damage to an enemy. Apart from that, it could strengthen Alger's mastery of various weapons, therefore it wasn't actually very expensive. Back then, the artisan and his friend had two mystical items. One was the Whip of Mind and the other was a Ring of the Witchcraft. The latter had more abilities and a high adaptability, while costing almost the same as the former. It was a better choice, but after serious consideration, Alger still chose the Whip of Mind. He believed that without such an item, his hunting of the Blue Shadow Falcon would be several times more difficult. This was because it was a beyond creature that could fly, and reality had proven that this judgment was right. For this, Alger was willing to experience a constant headache, a nagging feeling that made him want to slam his head into a wall. After waiting for several minutes, he saw points of light float up from the Blue Shadow Falcon. 6 crystalline feathers condensed around its wing as Alger heaved a sigh of relief and walked over. He had a flaxen cloth tied around his forehead, and embedded inside it was a blood-red gem that emitted a light that resembled the moonlight. This was meant to be Vampire Baron inheritance from Emlyn White. This was meant to be the Vampire Baron inheritance from Emlyn White, but Alger wasn't in a hurry to complete the transaction after obtaining it. Instead, he used a characteristic which he could use to a certain extent to add the insurance to his hunt for the Blue Shadow Falcon. Alright. At times, we can do that. At times, being a middleman is rather nice. Alger put away the 6 crystalline feathers as he sighed silently. Wait, let me reread from here. For this, Alger was willing to experience a constant headache, a nagging feeling that made him want to slam his head into a wall. After waiting for several minutes, he saw points of light flop up from the Blue Shadow Falcon. 6 crystalline feathers condensed around its wing as Alger heaved a sigh of relief and walked over. He had a flaxen cloth tied around his forehead, and embedded inside was a blood-red gem that emitted a light that resembled the moonlight. This was meant to be the Vampire Baron inheritance from Emlyn White, but Alger was in a hurry to complete the transaction after obtaining it. Instead, he used a characteristic which he could use to a certain extent to add insurance to his hunt from the Blue Shadow Falcon. At times, being a middleman is rather nice. Alger put away the 6 crystalline feathers as he sighed silently. He straightened his body and looked towards the towering mountain peak and dense forests around it on the primitive island. He felt that many indescribable dangers lurked there. My strength is insufficient to explore the area. Alger retracted his gaze and walked towards the island's periphery, constantly wary of any predators around them. Soon he jumped into the sea, and with his powers as a seafarer, he easily swam into the distance. His ghost ship was anchored there, and his sailors were still sleeping thanks to the sanguine's anesthetic gas. To come to the primitive island, the ship had to steer away from the main sea routes. In a situation where the sea monsters lurk while the storms lingered, navigating would take at least 6 years, with the danger of sinking at any moment. Only a seafarer who was familiar with the route could bring the ship close. Deep into the night, Klein, who was rested an entire day, put down his new papers and buried into bed. Just as he was about to fall asleep, he suddenly thought of a problem. Now that the nits that had returned to the Golden Dream, would it be a waste for me to stay in a larger suit alone? Klein nodded indescribably and decided to check out at daybreak and switch to another inn. After making up his mind, he quickly fell asleep. Suddenly, his mind became clear from its prior haziness. He knew that some forces had intruded into his dream. I'm very impressed to be able to sense the dream intrusion of a snake of fate. No shot, dude. No, the gray fog is very impressive. Klein surveyed his surroundings and discovered that he was located in a pitch-black, desolate plain, not far away from a black stepple. This was the scene he had formerly seen in Dr. Aaron's dream, but at this moment there wasn't a mysterious silver giant snake on the steeple. Klein nodded and thought Klein nodded and thawed as he sped up his pace and entered the pitch-black steeple. It remained ancient and decadent. The layout was chaotic. Maybe we can do that. Yeah, Romero. Maybe One Piece. The layout was chaotic with the staircase occasionally spiraling upwards and dropping downwards. Diagonally at times, some of the rooms were abnormal, others were upside down, and there were others that were embedded into other parts. Passing through the door after door and the walls after the wall, Klein once again arrived deep inside the Black Tower. There were tarot cards scattered around here as they clustered towards the ground in the middle, which was slightly protruded. There's a line of silver words on the portrait. The portrait was that of a chubby apocryphy, and the silver words formed the sentence, inform Darkwill. So the chubby apocryphy name is Darkwill. Will Ossipton really is a snake of fate from the life school of thought, and I really can use the paper crane to communicate with him in a dream. Good thing he kept that, right? Klein waited for a moment, and seeing that there weren't any other revelations, he exited the dream and fell asleep. Well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll talk about it right now then. Oh, wait, here. This is like the last paragraph, and then we're done. After daybreak, Klein asked if there weren't any additional charges for checking out at noon. He then put on his top hat and rode a carriage to the Red Theater's entrance. This famous brothel was in its quietest periods of day. It was like it was a ghost house. Klein glanced at it before walking diagonally across the alley and arriving outside Darkwill's folk herb store. He suddenly sensed something as he looked up at the roof, and he saw a fat owl perched there. He looked at him. The chubby apocryphy was apparently attempting to tame a beyonder animal before. Klein retracted his gaze and thought as he knocked on the door. Thump, 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 thump. After waiting for a while, he saw Darkwill open the door with his eyes hardly open. You aren't sick, Darkwill said after observing him. Klein maintained Kermit Sprout's cold expression and politely widened the corners of his mouth. Good morning, Mr. Apocryphy. I'm fond of your I found your teacher. For real? Darkwill asked in disbelief, like, now pay me up. You just received the mission the day before yesterday. Like, how did you figure it out already? All right. Are you guys ready? Well, not ready. Wait, hold up. We're going to end Lord of Mysteries there. And we are going to attempt to do our first anime react. And we should hopefully be safe. We have a pretty strong filter, and I think we're good. I know people aren't going to like the filter, but like we kind of have to do it. But here we go. If you like what you're seeing, do you want to see we almost messed up our outro. Hold up. We actually have to pause and do a timestamp, so this wouldn't be the outro. This is just us rehearsing the outro. We're not doing a retake. We just kind of rehearsed that part. But here, we're going to do our outro. If you like what you're seeing, you want to see more, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, join the Easy Geeky cult. I mean, join the Easy Geeky book club and potential anime reacts as the Lord of Mysteries, Dunkwa, approaches. Thank you to everybody that became members today. Join the cult? No, join the book club. And then when they join the book club, they realize it's actually a cult. Come on, guys. Come on. You have to make it appeasing, you know? Y'all should too. Thank you for being members. Thank you. Thank you for spamming our new Rampager emote. I think that's my new favorite emote. Fun fact, we can add one more emote, and then we need 30 members for the new emote. I'm not sure what to add, so we'll see what happens. But what I do want to do when the Dunkwa comes out, I want to wear like full clown makeup, get a new top hat, and then that's going to be the new. That's going to be the new main emote. But for now, we're going to leave it there. If you like what you're seeing, you want to see more, like, comment, sub, and stick around for tomorrow. And if you're watching live, stick around, and we're just going to hang out, chill, watch some anime.